Hi, all my buddies! Welcome to another episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. I'm your host, Stephen Romney, filling in for Adam Mickelson while he still discovers the joys of fatherhood.
There is no joys in fatherhood. There's just joys in eating, sleeping, and pooping.
Yes,
I'm kidding. I'm very joyous.
Yeah, it takes a while to see the joy sometimes. And as you can see, I'm being joined by the panelists. And as, of course, you've already heard from Adam Mickelson, the normal host, but as you can see in the lower third, I won the show from him in a poker game.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. You hijacked the show. How dare you? I just want to confirm that no, I will not actually be putting Stephen Romney in an internet timeout. I already have to worry about putting my daughter into a timeout at some point. People got mad.
Apparently.
How dare you? Even though well, okay, I will actually say on my part, I didn't properly notify people. I did not say on the Facebook, because you and I had talked about it, and we were already good with it, and I forgot to put the post up with the Geek News Facebook thread, and that kind of blew up in my face. So everyone was like, Romney took over?
It probably didn't help that I labeled the episode Romney Takes Over.
No, that added fuel to the fire, but I loved it.
Yep. And we're also being joined by the Shadow Blazer himself, Alex Short. How are you doing tonight?
I'm quite well tonight, actually. I had the day off. So, yay! On a Saturday, that's amazing.
I was going to say, you had a day off? Wow!
And on a Saturday, when you work retail, Saturdays, you're probably not getting off.
Mm-hmm.
All I can say, man, is enjoy it, because, you've got 2 months, and then you are not getting it off ever.
That's true.
So, but yeah.
Yeah.
So,
unfortunately, I couldn't think of a clever tagline tonight.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Again, it's an art form. And for those of you wondering, Aldo apparently has some family stuff he is dealing with. He says he might be able to make it, but is not making any promises, so fingers crossed. Pray to the raccoon gods, pray to the elephant gods, and have your sacrificial goats at the ready.
I sacrifice gnomes only.
Gnomes, goats, minions, especially minions, that's what I like to sacrifice. Alright, on that note, let's go with tonight's top story for the Tech Hour. Now, this is, to be honest, something that I'm kind of agitated by, but a lot of people are really excited for, as at the D23 Expo, which we talked about at length last week, there was a special announcement regarding a game that many of us have been waiting 10-plus years for, probably even longer at this rate, and that is an announcement that Kingdom Hearts 3 will now feature a world featuring the characters and setting from Big Hero 6.
Do you hear that, Kingdom Hearts fans? You got your Marvel world! Are you happy now? Are you happy? Can you stop sending messages to me?
Yeah, and technically it's a technicality, and at least it's actually one that was a Disney film and not a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
I'm just of the opinion that they need to finish the story they're telling before they start doing all these new worlds. You end Dream Drop Distance on a freaking cliffhanger. Come on!
It's Kingdom Hearts, man. They all end on cliffhangers.
Or really, really sad endings that lead into other games.
Yeah, pretty much.
Roxas for life.
So, first of all, I guess I'll kind of take a comment here. So, people actually have gotten on my case a little bit because I'm not just absolutely ecstatic when Kingdom Hearts news comes out. And that's not the case. I am. It's just that I've been a Square Enix gamer for most of my life, and I know that one announcement still means I've got about 5 years in development. So I'm not getting excited just yet. I'll get excited when there's a release date. You know? But I will admit that the stuff that they have said on the Big Hero 6 world, because I don't know if you saw this, but they actually went into a little bit more plot details.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently we're going to be stopping the construction of a Dark Baymax. And so I've seen two various pieces right there. One has been the one that's up on IGN, where it's Baymax versus Dark Baymax, but I don't know if you guys have seen the other one that I can't seem to get where it was, but it actually involves kind of a concept where you might actually see Hero on top of Dark Baymax. And if that's the case, I'm totally for that. That would be a great story to try and tell with Hero. So at this point, I'm excited for this world. I don't know if anybody else is. Yes, it's from the same person who did Tangled, but I don't care.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where at least it's a Disney movie, but I don't know. I just have mixed feelings about them trying to introduce all of these other worlds when they've got a very clear story that they're still trying to wrap up, as is the case. I mean, Dream Drop Distance was basically damage control for how convoluted the franchise had become.
Yeah.
And so trying to introduce, like, oh, Tangled World, Big Hero 6, and I really hope they do not do the Star Wars world, because, I mean, even in Kingdom Hearts 2, when they had Pirates of the Caribbean, the models based off real actors clashing with the very stylized designs of Sora and the others, it looked weird, like really weird.
Can I alleviate your frustration on that, Romney? So I've been following the debate on that, and I am just as worried about you, or as you. I don't want Marvel-inspired world. Big Hero 6 I'm fine with, because that was a Disney thing. But a Star Wars-themed world, I'm worried as all heck about it. But I've loved how some people have actually come out and said how unlikely that is. And let me just kind of quote them for a second here. If they did it, it's pretty certain that Disney would basically tie their hands and make them do The Force Awakens. But developers have been asked what world they would like to do, and they actually have said they would like to do the world of A New Hope, which would be a good idea. That's why I don't think it's going to happen, is because the devs are going to want to do one thing, and Disney's going to want them to do another. So this is just one of those things that I'll bet Nomura-san is looking at and going, impasse. We're just not going to do it.
Yeah, and if not The Force Awakens, they would probably want them to do something tying to Star Wars Rebels, because the characters are already stylized, and at least there it would mesh a little bit better with the designs of Sora and the others, since they're already stylized.
Which at this point, I would much rather have the Kingdom Hearts team do what they want to do. You know, and actually A New Hope world, I think that'd be awesome. You know, that would be perfect in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just, again, I'm of the opinion, finish the story you're trying to tell, then move on to these other worlds, because with the way everything has been building up, with how, spoilers for anybody who hasn't played, well, any game past 2, with the way things are leading up with Xehanort and Organization 13 and all that, and everything they're building up with, it just feels weird trying to work in all the globe-trotting elements of all these other worlds while trying to resolve this really huge cliffhanger storyline that they've been building up to. I mean, especially considering that these are supposed to be worlds that were lost to the darkness and are now coming back. So we're supposed to believe that the Tangled world and the Big Hero 6 world had existed for as long as all the others. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, the world aesthetics has never made sense to some extent, because they haven't ever really explained it all that well. Even, okay, I love Space Paranoids in Kingdom Hearts 2. I love the Tron world. I think it was perfect, especially when they brought back Bruce Boxleitner to play Tron. But the way they explained it was really, really weird. And even I'll admit, that was probably not the way they should have gone. But it's the way that they're going. You know, I don't want them to do a Tangled world. I'd love to see them go into the vault a little bit and do maybe some older worlds that people have requested, and make those that are the ones tied to the darkness.
Yeah, well, I mean, Black Cauldron world would probably work really well.
I don't think that will ever happen. I agree with you. I think it would be perfect, but I don't think that will ever happen because of Disney's approach to it, which is that it's still the redheaded stepchild of the Disney lineup, and I think that's the stupidest thing ever, because a Black Cauldron world would be great, but yeah. I'm not the one that's running Disney. So.
Yeah, either a Black Cauldron or a Robin Hood world. One of those like more fantasy action ones. Especially Robin Hood would also work really well, because it'd get kind of the whole Errol Flynn sort of action they tried having in the Pirates of the Caribbean world.
Yeah.
And it would be more appropriate. I mean, who wouldn't want to fight alongside Robin Hood and Little John trying to like rob Prince John of the?
I don't know if I think that Robin Hood would be the one. I think Jungle Book would be more likely than Robin Hood, and that might, you know, I know you don't like us bringing up this concept that both Disney and who is it, DreamWorks, are both in making their own Jungle Book movies.
Warner Brothers, actually.
Warner Brothers. And so at that point, that might be a good advertising point. I just don't think they should do it. Actually, you want to know what they probably should do? You know, we kept on getting told in the Kingdom Hearts games that the summons that were coming out of them were from worlds that had been lost to darkness. So why aren't we doing like a Bambi world? Why aren't we doing a Dumbo world?
I could have sworn there was like some sort of Bambi sort of summon, though. Like,
there was that's what I mean. There was a Bambi summon, and the premise for the summons in Kingdom Hearts is that they are from lost, forgotten, and darkened worlds. So at that point, why aren't we getting a Bambi world?
Yeah, and that does make sense. I mean, because we got the Lion King world, and they actually worked it into the story that Simba had worked with Sora, which is how we recognized him. And so, yeah, there are quite a few summons they do have that could work. And we even got a look at Stitch's world in Birth by Sleep. So there's probably a few other summons that we may see their worlds, we may not. Who knows?
That might be the way to go. I mean, like going to... How about the various princess worlds we never got to visit? You know, we basically jumped from princess. You know, like we maybe went to Wonderland. We saw Alice get captured, but we didn't see Cinderella or
actually,
Snow White.
We see Cinderella's world in Birth by Sleep and Snow White's world in Birth by Sleep. We actually see quite a few of the princess worlds in Birth by Sleep. We see, like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White. So actually, a lot of those were explored in Birth by Sleep.
But I will actually divert really quick and just mention this one sad thought that came to me. I really wanted to hear Leonard Nimoy come back as Master Xehanort, and unfortunately, that can't happen.
Yeah, there's been a lot of speculation about whether or not they had recorded all of his lines, especially considering that the voice actor for Goofy came out and said, I finished recording all of my lines. So some people are hoping that Nimoy's lines were already recorded, but maybe
One
not.
would hope, but for all we know, he was in the middle of them. So at that point, or if they were going to bring Christopher Lee back, we don't know how far he was. I don't think they'd bring him back though, because Diz is done.
Well, yeah, Diz is done, and also in Dream Drop Distance, where you have the projection of Ansem / Diz, they had the voice actor for Yen Sid do the voice of Ansem and Diz. Granted, he didn't really differentiate his voice, didn't really put any effort into it. So it's kind of a case that by the time they were done with 2 and working on the other games, they had no real intention of bringing Christopher Lee back, especially with what happens to the character of Ansem the Wise in Kingdom Hearts 2. We're getting into a lot of spoilers tonight, people.
It's the way it goes. It's the way it goes.
Yeah. Alex, you've been pretty quiet during this whole thing, so what are your thoughts on Big Hero 6 being a world in Kingdom Hearts 3?
Well, I think we all know I don't play Kingdom Hearts. Maybe, jeez, maybe it's about time
No, seriously, sugarcoat it, man. Beat around the bush.
Well, it seems like an interesting idea, but I think the only thing that would be kind of bothering me if I was a fan, that is this going to slow the game down more?
No. No, because that was one of the big things that came up is when the E3 reveal happened with Pirates. People thought that was going to get slowed down because at that point, what was it, 2 was in development or it had barely come out?
Yeah, I think 2 had barely come out, or they were getting geared up for 3. I'm not quite sure. Yeah.
So a lot of people thought that when they were going to do the whole Port Royal concept, that it would not be that. It would be something based off of the 3rd movie, and no, it wasn't. It was the original story, and they'd already procured the rights to it, although they didn't procure the rights to the music.
Well, they did have some of the music. I know that the battle theme in that world was at least the do 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 theme, and so that's the only song from that I remember.
Yeah, but it's not the legitimate theme. It's a Kingdom Hearts mixed version.
Yeah, well that goes without saying. They do that with any of the ones. Although I wish they had done that for the Notre Dame world, because the music really lends itself to that. But no, they had to decide to go with original. Yeah.
I need to play the handheld ones because you keep on mentioning worlds that I didn't even think they'd do.
Yeah, and I mean you can the HD collections you can get Birth by Sleep, and Dream Drop Distance is for the 3DS. So
playing a game for 50 hours and destroying my neck in the process. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. At least it's only one of them you have to do with, because Birth by Sleep, unless you want to pull out your PSP or download it to your Vita.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of to bring it back here, I'm excited. I like the idea of a Big Hero 6 world. It gives me kind of at least something to look forward to as far as potential for other worlds. But again, I agree with you, Romney. I really do think you ought to expand on the idea of dark, forgotten worlds that have been consumed by the Heartless. And here's the thing: one of the ones that would make sense would be like Black Cauldron, or Bambi's world would lend itself really well. You know, movies that have had kind of tragic endings to them. Mm-hmm. That's why Lion King worked the way it did. I'm trying to think of like a more recent one that would be able to do it. Could you do a Pocahontas world? I kind of don't want them to do it.
Yeah, and that too many sticky subjects. And given how they handled Notre Dame in Dream Drop Distance, you could tell that they weren't quite sure how to handle adapting something like Hunchback to a Kingdom Hearts storyline. I mean, it's basically you have a bunch of Japanese designers and programmers working with something that's very foreign to them, that they don't quite understand why Frollo was going after the gypsies. They don't quite understand the context of it, and thus weren't able to really give it a faithful representation. That's the same thing that would probably happen with Pocahontas as well, is that they would try, but you could tell that it would be a fundamental misunderstanding about the source material.
But we also need to go into worlds that are predominantly influenced by the darkness. You know, I love the concept of this dark Baymax. This is a great idea, because Baymax is pretty much like the essence of purity in that universe. So at that point, you need to have that darkness. How great would it be if, you know, we did a Bambi world where Bambi represented the light of the world and his father represented the darkness, and, you know, basically like his dad sold his soul to the Heartless to be able to bring back Bambi's mom, or whatever justification you want to bring, you know?
Yeah.
This is just me spitballing here.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to run through my mind of other Disney films they could do. I mean, something with the Rescuers might work pretty good as well.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. Actually, could you merge the two movies?
Probably.
Like make a bonus mission where you have to go get the Golden Eagle or whatever?
Or I mean, you could probably like merge the two, maybe even have it where they're like parts of the same area, where maybe as a result of being lost to the darkness, the worlds that were being pulled back accidentally got smashed together, and that could be the storyline. These two separate worlds got smashed together. We need to separate them, or else they'll be destroyed. Yeah,
exactly. Then the other concept here that I hope that Square Enix sticks to, and we haven't really talked about it, but one of our fans actually brought it up, is that if you notice, Kingdom Hearts to Kingdom Hearts 2 gets progressively darker, and their justification is that their audience is getting older. So at that point, I like that idea, but I don't want to go like super dark and gritty with 3, and I'm afraid that they could justify that. I just want a world that has been dominated by darkness. It doesn't need to be all gritty and gory or anything like that. You don't have to go that end.
Yeah, and Square Enix wouldn't go that far. I mean, even with Final Fantasy VII, most you got was just some blood, and that was about it. And even that, like blood and like one shocking stabbing, and that was about it. So Square Enix wouldn't go that far. Plus, that would be a point where Disney would be kind of going, yeah, rein it back a little bit, because this could hurt our brand.
Pretty much. But I like the potential here. I like what they're doing, at least as far as concept. But concept and actual application are two completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Speaking of concepts, that gives us a nice segue to our next story. And that is, let me just pull it up, and that is that Nintendo has filed a patent for a console that has no optical drive. Now, for those of you who aren't sure what I'm talking about, an optical drive is basically a drive that you would put your disc in. That's basically what reads discs, CDs, I mean, in your consoles and a lot of your personal computers. That's what an optical drive is that's what reads your CDs, DVDs, etc., etc. And so Nintendo has filed a patent for a console that does not have that. And, well, there's a rough schematic which I can pull up to give you an idea. I mean, it's, again, a rough schematic, so we don't quite know what it is we're actually looking at. But
Yeah.
this is the schematic that was leaked out by someone over on NeoGAF about what the console is made of, per se. Now, granted, this is very, well, Greek to me because I am not an engineer, so...
Okay, so let me just fill in a gap really quick because some people have actually misinterpreted this figure to some extent. So first of all, a lot of people took this outer square right here. Sorry, I'm using the picture right now, Romney. This square right here as the design of the console. That's not what it is, guys. This is basically a flowchart saying this is what they would like to do with it. They have not come up with like an architectural layout of what this thing looks like. It's basically this is what we want in it, and this is what we want to hook up to it later. You know, so at that point, just given the figure that we have here, it's got some potential. I mean, you know, it's Nintendo at their finest. They're at least figuring out what they want to do. But at the same time, guys, this is not a confirmed console blueprint. This is very rudimentary.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen lots of these in my lifetime.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been speculating on what it could mean. Could it mean that they're going to be creating a console that does a digital-only distribution, much like the PSP Go, or even the Nintendo Gateway that was built into hotel rooms that allowed people to stream Nintendo games into their hotel room? It could be, in my opinion, it could be something very similar to that. That may not necessarily be a console meant to be sold in stores. It could be something for, say, retailers to demo games, or hotels to stream games. I mean, I could see maybe, hey, you're on an airplane. If you're in first class, there's this fancy Nintendo thing that lets you play Mario while you're flying from coast to coast or something.
Yeah, the issue that I have with it is obviously, like I said, this figure is very rudimentary, so we don't know entirely what's coming of it. We know what their basic idea is, but I have seen a lot of people giving crap about the fact that this does not have an optical drive. And look, guys, if you look at technology and how it's supposed to progress, I know you guys don't like. I know people don't like the Vita, but the Vita actually has it right technically. Is that eventually the physical media has to go away for things to get better. So at that point, Nintendo, I will applaud them for saying, yeah, you're looking ahead. You're basically saying, yeah, this can't last. We have to eventually forsake the physical media in favor of working on our Nintendo network and giving you that functionality instead of paying out so much money for discs.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. This could easily be just as much a box for a hotel to put in, as far as we know.
Now, part of what piques my interest is the mention that the patent mentions that it has a read-write card slot for an SD memory card.
Yes.
So this could also be something that could be meant to work with the card-based console stuff like the DS and the 3DS.
But at the same time, I also want to confirm this. So yes, it is confirmed for an SD card, and I've actually seen people get on their case about, what, no USB? Oh, Nintendo, you won't adopt to normal means. Guys, an SD card is a normal means.
Mm-hmm.
And just because there isn't a USB drive now doesn't mean there won't be one later. You know, my freaking Wii and my Wii U have USB drives. They happen. It's just that's further along.
Yeah, and looking at it, it could be similar to what SNK did for their Neo Geo X, which was basically a handheld Neo Geo that you would update stuff or get games on it using just a normal SD card. You would just download the firmware and the games that you purchased onto this SD card, put it into your Neo Geo X, and there, you'd have it on your Neo Geo X. Exactly.
And here's the thing. An SD card reader actually makes a lot of sense. Look, I'm one of those guys that can get online whatever I like. There are individuals, gamers, who can't. And so an SD card is a great means for them to be able to say, well, I'm not really playing Contra Hardcore, but what I can do is I can put it on the SD card, save it for later, and I don't have to worry about trying to go all the way to the library or wherever I'm going to get internet access to be able to download it again. It allows for them to be able to say, okay, this is the SD card that has all my shooters. This is the one that has all my shoot 'em ups kind of thing. And I like the idea because, yes, you have to forsake things like physical media, but USBs don't have to necessarily go away. SDs don't have to. SD readers don't really take that much power or space on a console. So this is actually kind of a step in the right direction, guys, because, look, we're talking Nintendo here, guys. We're talking the guys who would not give up on cartridges, had to make their own mini discs. The fact that they're adopting to regular means, bravo, Nintendo! Holy crap, man! You don't have to be the dictators no more.
Yeah, and so it's again, there's not a lot to go off of because they're intentionally keeping quiet on what they're developing in order to avoid the competition learning about what they've got planned. Because, as we all know, so if they have anything really innovative, Sony and Microsoft would probably try to jump on it. I mean, look at what happened with motion control and how they both jumped on the motion control bandwagon due to the success of the Wii.
You could dare make an argument that Sony tried to leap ahead of them when they designed the Vita. You know, to make it so that no physical media was needed, because maybe they saw that was where Nintendo was going. Now, for in Sony's defense, because I am actually a Vita fan, I love the Vita. I think it's really well done for a handheld console, given that it's not a Nintendo handheld console. But I will at least hold true to that concept. They actually tried to leap ahead of Nintendo, and they kind of succeeded. It works in that regard. And to the people who are giving crap to Nintendo for doing this, how dare you not think about the disc crowd? This is where it's going, guys. I hate to tell you that, but this is where it's going.
Yep.
This is where technology... Like, I've made the predictions and gotten the crap, and Romney can attest to this. I've gotten the crap. I've said at least 2 console generations from now, we will have nothing but a solid OS, and the physical media will be like a Steam variation. That's how you're going to get your games from here on in, because that's how it has to go.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that the people over at Extra Credits even talked about it, how consoles may go the way of arcade machines, where there are people who prefer to play on the consoles, but they're not going to be around forever. They're not going to be the only means of playing games forever. I mean, look at how much mobile has taken off.
Yeah, well, the perfect example here is the Steam machines. I mean, how many developers do you have for the Steam machines? And the one thing that connects them all together is Steam. It's the one OS. So at that point, that's technology eventually moving to where it's going to go. It's just Steam is a little bit further ahead and allowing for people like Alienware, and I think Corsair has one, and a couple of others to make Steam machines. Eventually, I love Nintendo just as much as anybody. I love Sony. I love Microsoft to a certain extent. But this is where they would have to go to be able to move things forward. And that's not a bad thing. Yeah, does it mean that it's going to be harder for you to get your games? Yeah, but the console makers will adjust to that. Mm-hmm. If they're already planning for an SD card reader, I'm pretty sure they're planning on a means to let you get the games at your local library and be able to download them into your console.
Well,
They've
probably
worked
not
that
the
out.
library, but probably your local GameStop, your local game store. I mean, although it would be amazing to see a library start loaning out video games, that's probably not going to happen in our lifetime.
No, it's gonna at least be 2 generations from now. Like, I really do think the next generation will still, like, I originally said the 9th generation of consoles would not have it. But now, just given how slow things are going, yes, you're going to have another optical media drive from Sony and Microsoft that will have that, and then the following generation will be when they get rid of it. Because at that point, they're going to need to, if they're going to make them more powerful.
Yep. And so, Alex, since you're the one who brought this story to us, what are your thoughts on Nintendo patenting a console without an optical drive?
Well, this was a very fascinating story to read. The fact that Nintendo is going ahead with this patent, I haven't been totally sure what to think. I mean, there's so much to kind of take in now, and you guys kind of brought some new insight that I didn't even think about or know about. Thanks to you guys have a bit more technical expertise than me. So I know a lot of people are thinking that this might be where the NX is going. I'm kind of doubting this is going to be NX, because if this was NX, they would have filed this patent probably ages ago, and if NX is due within the next 2 years or so, maybe even next year. I doubt it next year.
Patents are funky like that, though, dude. I mean,
Oh,
literally, things can get renamed.
Well,
And
that is true, I guess. Patents can sometimes get held up.
For all we know, this conceptual... I'm totally talking out of my butt here, guys, so bear in mind. But Nintendo technically could have filed this patent 10 years ago. They really could have.
That is true. That is true. I didn't even think about that. So.
I mean, the perfect example here that I could give you is, again, I have to go into the Blizzard territory because this is a perfect example. But Blizzard loves to trademark stuff and then tell their fan sites that they did it. And one of the ones that they did last year was on something called Eye of Ashara. So a lot of people looked at that and went, "Oh, next WoW expansion. That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be. Oh my gosh, that's what it's going to be." And a year later, we get the Legion announcement, and it just so happens that one of the dungeons in the new expansion Legion is called Eye of Ashara.
It's just a dungeon.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
no, basically, in essence, like a lot of people have learned that Blizzard also likes to throw curveballs, because it doesn't take a whole lot to do that with the patents. So
that's why we have patent lawsuits.
Yeah,
that's true. I don't. Okay, forget it. I don't know anything about patent law, so don't take anything I say to heart. It's pretty clear.
Keep in mind,
I don't.
we are not lawyers.
At least not yet.
I don't want to be a lawyer. No thanks. No thanks.
So in order lied to us. It's not as glamorous a profession as they made it out to be.
Yeah, don't believe everything you see in Perry Mason or Phoenix Wright, people.
So yeah, I still think this is probably a bit too early for, say, an X, but this could very well be a console generation down the line. They could even just, I mean, who knows? They may even just file this patent and sit on it for years till the technology gets there. I don't know. We don't really know until they talk more about an X in the next year, and it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I am still kind of the diehard for physical media, but I gotta say, I wouldn't be against, say, SD cards replacing discs at all. I don't necessarily. Yeah, it's just more. I don't want to lose the physical media because, and I don't think anybody else wants to. I don't want to see like a digital download only era, just because until everybody in the country, at least as far as the United States and probably everywhere else, gets essentially T2 internet quality, that's just not going to be feasible for everybody because. Yeah. Sure, I live in the middle of the suburbs where my internet connection's pretty good, but not everybody does. And, if you live out in the sticks and you're stuck using dial-up, you're going to want to have a pretty good internet connection for something like digital downloading.
Yeah, but again, the console developers will come up with a way to be able to do that. I mean, the only one I can not really say about is Microsoft because, well, we heard their answer a couple of years ago to people who didn't have access to a 24-hour internet connection. And as snarky as that was, I think they've learned from that. But that's kind of the goal of the console developers is that they eventually figure that out. And then, in turn, they work with the companies like GameStop, like Amazon, to be able to get that stuff out. And who knows, it might actually be easier for GameStop to, instead of having discs held up there, instead having SD cards with download codes that would work. That might actually be a little bit easier on them as far as shelf space and a couple of other factors. Or they hold all the digital stuff and they just put in an SD card and download it, and there you go. You have all you need.
Yeah, or it even could be something like a security dongle, because, for example, if you ever buy Pro Tools, you have to have a USB dongle hooked into your computer in order for it to authenticate that you have an official version of Pro Tools. And so it could even be something as simple as that, where you can download it, but then until you get the SD card that has the unlock, you're not able to play it, or you're only able to play a demo, because that's something that we're even seeing today, where you can download a demo, but then you have to pay extra if you want to unlock the full game. At least that's the case with a game like Kickbeat, for example. Kickbeat lets you download the demo, and then what you're paying for is the unlock.
Or you could have in the case of Capcom where you have the entire game on your SD card, but you only have access to the demo, and then when you get the full game downloaded, you only have so much access. And all the DLC characters are there, you just don't know they're there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of, is bullshit like that happening.
Well,
I think Capcom's
Capcom and
kind of-
Konami are learning their lessons, boys and girls. So
Yeah. Although Capcom's learned a little bit better than Konami, though, because at least they're getting away from that to a certain extent.
I would agree with that. Yes, Capcom has learned their lesson more than Konami has. I would agree with that. Which is great, because I think that actually leads into the next story, Romney. So I'm already on a roll.
Yes. Speaking of speculation about game companies with questionable practices, Konami released a little bit of a survey recently. Not
Yes.
sure where it came from. And I filled it out, and it's just basically the kind of survey you would fill out on something like Club Nintendo, where it's like, oh, which of the following games are you aware of? Notice how they say aware of, not necessarily played, because that's actually the next question. And I've actually filled out the survey myself, and they're
I'm
actually
filling it out right now. So
yeah. So I'm gonna pull it up on my screen, or Adam, if you could pull it up on your screen share, that way we can actually show people what this survey looks like.
Sure.
And as we go along.
Shall we fill this out live? Is that what you're saying?
Let's fill it out live.
Sure, let's do it.
Yes.
Let's see. Give me a second here to bring this up full screen, and this should do it.
All right, so Adam is officially our guinea pig in this case. Now, before we answer anything, notice the list of games. So we've got Rocket Knight, Bishi Bashi Special, Parodius, Sunset Riders, Gradius, Vandal Hearts, Suikoden, and New International Track and Field, Bomberman, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Zone of the Enders, Castlevania, Mystical Ninja featuring Goemon, Contra, but notice that a certain franchise is missing.
Funniest thing about that. So let's see, if any of the following Konami video games are you aware of? Okay, so just if I'm aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Rocket Knight, I'm aware of. Parodius, Sunset Riders, Gradius, Vandal Hearts, Suikoden, Suikoden. I apologize. Bomberman, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Zone of the Enders, Castlevania, Mystical Ninja, and Contra.
Yes,
So
so
continue.
those are the franchises we are aware of. Now, the next question is, which ones have you played in the past?
Okay, I have not played Sunset Riders. I played Suikoden, Contra, never played Bomberman. Rocket Knight I have. I hate to admit this, but yes, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! Games.
You're not alone.
Zone of the Enders.
There's no shame in it.
I've actually not played Parodius. Vandal
Parodius
Hearts-
has never come out in the U.S., so...
No, but you can get the emulator, and I've never done it. Castlevania, and then Mystical Ninja. Okay, so third one.
Now it's like asking, thinking about the games, how would you rate each of the following games based on your past gaming experience?
Okay, Castlevania, I like it very much. Suikoden... I'm going to piss off a friend for saying this, but I really don't either like or dislike it. Gradius, I like it. Contra, I like it very much. Yu-Gi-Oh!, I like it. Zone of the Enders, I like it. Mystical Ninja, I like it very much. And Rocket Knight, I like it. Okay, so there we go.
All right, so next. In your own words, what are your favorite elements of the following games? Ooh.
Do I mess this up? I mean, do I spoof this or?
Well, go nuts.
Let's see. What favorite elements? Okay, so story, gameplay, and let's see, and music. Suikoden. Story's kind of interesting. Gameplay needs work. Music kind of needs. Let's just go with story there. Gradius, gameplay. I don't think Gradius has a story.
Not really. It's just basically you're in a ship, and you're shooting other things.
Gameplay. Story. Gameplay. Music. Sound design, because I love some of the stuff I get here. Mystical Ninja, gameplay. And then Rocket Knight, gameplay. Sometimes I just like to play games for the sake of games. How interested are you in playing a new launched version in each... But you're not going to do it, Konami, so why are you even tempting me with this?
No, Konami, we don't want to play a Pachinko Castlevania.
Does somebody have a rooster thing that they could put over? Because I'm about ready to scream.
Well,
Son
unfortunately...
of a bitch! Don't do that! Okay, very interested in Castlevania. Moderately interested in Suikoden. Quite interested in Gradius. Quite interested in Contra. Bomberman, slightly interested. Yu-Gi-Oh! Not at all interested. Because they really haven't come up with anything new.
Yeah. Card games on motorcycles.
Exactly. Vandal Hearts, not at all interested. I've never played them. Parodius, moderately interested. Moderately interested. Rocket Knight, quite interested. And Sunset Riders, not at all interested. All right, so in your opinion, on which game platforms would it be... Again, you're teasing me, Konami! In your opinion, on which game platforms would it be suitable to play each of the following games? Cross-platform, Suikoden, probably console only, Gradius, cross-platform, Contra, cross-platform, Bomberman. Bomberman's probably simple enough that it probably could go for mobile only. Yu-Gi-Oh! Mobile only. Zone of the Enders, cross-platform because I want them to get money from it. I don't care on this one. Console only, I guess. Mobile. I would love to see a Mystical Ninja mobile game. That'd be awesome. Rocket Knight, I would like to see cross-platform, and Sunset Riders, I guess console only. I don't really care. How often do you play generally on each of the following game platforms? Smartphone. I am not a good example for this, so about once a day. Console, several times a day. Desktop, several times a day. Tablet, not that much, probably once a day. And then in your own words, please let us know which Konami games you would like to see again and with what kind of gameplay elements. I'm going to piss people off by saying this, but I'm going to. Because Lords of Shadow wasn't that bad for being a God of War ripoff. Send your hate mail to. Thank you for completing this area. Do you want to be included in a free prize? No. Okay, there we go. So, Jiminy Christmas, Konami, do not do this! Because at the very most, this actually kind of irritates me, because I know that you're not going to do anything, and I'm never going to play your stinking pachinko machines!
Yeah, it leads me to wonder what Konami is trying to do. Do they think that... My theory is that maybe they're trying to test the waters a little bit and see if they can recover from the huge stream of bad press they've been getting lately after some of their dark secrets have been coming to light.
Yeah. And frankly, I mean, here's one of the things that I would actually like to see happen out of this. If you are actually considering giving those IPs to other companies or giving other companies an opportunity to do something with them, great! I think that's a great idea. But it's Konami, and right now, as far as I am concerned, they are the Nintendo of this decade and want to be the bloodthirsty dictators with it, and therefore I don't know if I want any of that stuff handed off by them. And yes, I found it interesting, as well as the entire internet, no Metal Gear, which tells me that is under some strict debate right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to know what that tells me, boys and girls? Kojima has a legitimate reason to take it, and Konami is basically testing the waters. They are making sure that they do not piss off Kojima because he could probably get the wave of lawyers to be able to do something with it.
Yeah, at the very least, not piss them off more than they already have.
Yeah. So at that point, or, I mean, here's the thing. The survey probably had to get brought to Kojima's lawyers, and Kojima's lawyers basically said, nope, you can't use it. Can't do it. Not at all. Although I would be kind of surprised by that because Castlevania showed up on that, and Kojima right now is pretty much the sole reason Castlevania stayed alive in the past 5 years.
True, but he doesn't have the major control over the Castlevania franchise.
No, he just introduced Mercury Steam. That's all he did.
Yeah, so there it's not nearly as weird, especially considering that Mercury Steam was only contracted for 3 games, and that was Lords of Shadow, Mirror of Fate, and Lords of Shadow 2.
Which, for the record, that game got a lot more crap than it probably deserved. Just saying. But yeah, I find it interesting that Metal Gear's not part of it, but at the same time, I also find it interesting that a lot of other prominent Konami franchises aren't part of it. Ninja Turtles wasn't mentioned.
Well, that's another licensing issue, though, because Konami no longer has the Ninja Turtles license. I think the people... Actually, I'm not sure who has it now. I think it's either EA or Ubisoft.
I think it's in dispute right now, because I know that I think it was EA that wanted to make a game with it, and somebody tried to stop that.
Yeah, and then there was like a remake of Turtles in Time that came out that a company produced that got a lot of flack.
Don't bring that one up. Don't bring it up. That game does not exist.
Yeah, then there's also that other Ninja Turtles game that had designs for the Turtles even creepier than the designs of the Michael Bay film.
Oh.
It's either that or the Turtles in Time remake. I could keep going.
Why do people like to hurt my brain?
Because we love to see you suffer.
Apparently so. It's just one of those things that just blows... Okay, so I actually played Turtles in Time Reshelled. I did not play the Out of the Shadows game that they did with the remake of the Turtle Power song. But I can't understand what people were thinking there. I really can't. So that's a rant for another day, though. But, I mean, here's the thing. There's a lot of Konami properties that are actually missing from that list. Those are just the most prominent ones. So what does this say? Not a whole lot, at least to me. If anything, being Konami is the trolls they are, this is just basically them trying to gauge what the next pachinko machine announcement should be.
Yeah, or what the next mobile game should be. Because notice how that was a lot of the things, what would you most like to play them on? Desktop or mobile or console only?
We would like to expand pachinko to internet market. We will make it free to play with microtransactions.
You know, I can actually see that for pachinko because, well, it would be the case. They would probably do the same roundabout thing with the certain amount of balls.
You could totally see Konami making that argument, right?
Well, yeah, and plus with the way pachinko is done in Japan, since legally you can't actually like give people money in exchange for the balls, but what you do is that with the balls that you've won for the machine, you go to the prize counter, and then you redeem it for a prize. But then you go to a building next door and exchange your prize for money. That's how the pachinko parlors work. That's how they skirt around that. And so maybe that would be a way to get around it. It would basically just be Konami entering into online gambling.
Yeah, pretty much. But, I mean, given Konami's current focus, would this surprise any of us?
Not really.
No. I mean, Alex is probably the one of us that isn't the big Konami fan. Like, I've just barely been showing you the Castlevania games. You've seen the Ninja Turtle games. But, I mean, given what you've heard over the past year, Alex, does this sound like something that they do?
What, the survey or just fucking around?
Going into either online gambling or maybe like mobile gambling.
Oh yeah, gambling totally, because gambling is where they want to make their money now, clearly.
Yeah.
And all I can say is just the way that Romney described as pachinko working. I just feel like this is the making of an anime version of Bart's Elephant, where somebody wins money. They expect the person to go cash in the prize for money, but they want the elephant.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But, I mean, here's the thing, is that I know that a lot of companies are really liking the free-to-play model and the microtransaction store model, and it would totally make sense for Konami to go this route, too.
Yeah.
And that makes me really sad, because basically Castlevania, Metal Gear, franchises that have lasted 20, 30 years now are just, they're basically given a giant kick to the nuts for their legacies and become pachinko machines.
Yeah.
It sucks royally.
Mm-hmm.
Castlevania, which has such a long-standing legacy, is now forever known for its erotic violence.
Yeah, just yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame. And again, this is coming from someone who's a diehard Castlevania fan, who was one of the people that criticized Lords of Shadow because, well, I mean, I've shown my DS collection. I have all of the DS Castlevania games. That's how into it I was. It's just
You're not the only one.
Yeah,
I criticize Lords of Shadow, but here's the thing: is that if you actually asked me which would I rather have, Castlevania 64 or Castlevania Lament of Innocence, or would I rather have Lords of Shadow, and I'd have no problem telling you Lords of Shadow, because at least that was a good attempt, a good solid attempt at a 3D game with Castlevania and as part of it.
Yeah, in my case, though, I wish they would do a combination of both Lament of Innocence and Lords of Shadow, having the polished gameplay, but then actually having the engaging story. Especially,
I think you would have gotten it. I really do, because I think Mercury's team, given I just barely finished Lords of Shadow 2, yes, it takes me a while to finish games, guys, and I just barely played Mirror of Fate HD on PS3, I could tell you they were kind of experimenting with that model and seeing if they could actually make it work.
Yeah, I'm just one of the people that wants the frickin' 1999 battle that they always refer to in all of the Koji Igarashi Castlevania games, of the big battle that finally killed Dracula once and for all. I want to see it, but I know I will never get it.
Demon Castle Wars, never going to happen now.
Nope.
Not unless they give the rights to somebody to be able to do it.
Or
Here's
it'll just be a frickin' pachinko machine with even more erotic violence.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing too, is like we haven't even gotten into that history. Alex and me have gone through pretty much the NES legacy of Castlevania thus far. So at this point, I mean, this is a whole other thing that he doesn't even know about. There's actually an untold story in the timeline that would have been perfect to, like, if you were going to end the franchise, Romney, wouldn't the Demon Castle Wars be the way to do it?
Mm-hmm.
It would. You could have easily put the Lords of Shadow budget into a Demon Castle Wars game, and it would be fine. But this is actually a part of the history that will never be told.
Not unless the fan project gets off the ground, which seems to be another thing. But given what Konami did with the Metal Gear remake that was going to be made using the Alien Strike engine, it's sketchy.
Konami's going to jump down the throats. That's just the bottom line. They're going to jump down the throats, and that's stupid, but they are.
They're going to jump down the throats and curb stomp their intestines.
Pretty much. Which is appropriate, because now I actually think Konami should own the Dead Space franchise.
Dead Space Pachinko. Do you really want that, Adam?
No, but that would make sense with everything that they've been doing the last couple of years, is curb stomping everybody until there's nothing left.
Well...
I didn't mean to get grim here, but this is Konami right now.
Well, it's a good thing that we're at the end of the tech hour, because the entertainment hour at least gives us stuff that's on a bit of a lighter note. So we can put down the Prozac.
We got one more story. We're not going to talk about it?
Huh?
We're not going to talk about it?
Oh, wait. Oh.
I'm the one that noticed.
Yeah, you did. Well, it's still lighter news than the grim reminder that Konami is effectively run by Satan.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to move to something else, because then at that point I have to double the Prozac budget.
Yeah, which, I mean, we're already dealing with inflated Prozac prices. I mean, we always have to send Alex to Canada, hidden inside a van, in order to get it.
Which technically, since you won the show in a poker game, does that mean I have to transfer the Prozac budget to you?
Not necessarily. Again, Alex is the one doing all the work.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd send Aldo, but last time we sent Aldo, he got in a fight with a couple of Mounties, then he threw a raccoon in someone's face, and then he just decided to take a dive off Niagara Falls, miraculously survived thanks to the power of the elephant. And I have no idea where to take this joke, so let's move on to the next story.
So apparently Pokken Tournament's coming.
Yes. And it's not even just the Dave & Buster's announcement either. Nintendo has officially announced that Pokken Tournament is coming to the Wii U with a spring 2016 worldwide release. They have released a trailer that shows us the gameplay and the initial roster. It's not the final roster, but it shows what characters we're going to get to play as. And
so clarify this for me. Pokken Tournament, it isn't a strictly Nintendo project. This has been with Namco, right?
Yep, Namco Bandai was developing this because it's basically a Pokemon fighting game built
based on Tekken.
Built on the Tekken engine. And it looks like it's going a lot better than the Tekken Cross Street Fighter that they had planned.
I can already tell you graphic-wise it looks better. But then again, I was not for that project. I really did think they needed to take another 10 years and work on it. Because, I mean, when one of your DLC ideas is to bring out Fat Mega Man, you really need to rethink some things, Capcom.
Well, yeah, but then again, there was the one from Capcom, and then Namco was supposed to develop one that would be all the Street Fighter characters done in the Tekken style, which would have been interesting to see, but given how complex Tekken can get, pulling off a Hadoken or a Tatsumaki, Ryu would have been overpowered. He really would have.
Actually, I did like the idea that somebody else came up with, which was, you know, we don't know how you're going to do like Ryu's moveset, and a couple of others got brought up. So we've got a great idea. Just go ahead and give Ryu a Devil Gene. It's okay. We'll let you do it. Akuma will get a Devil Gene. So
yeah, he already has the Satsui no Hado.
Yeah. So at that point, just let him be a devil.
Yeah, but back to Pokken.
Alex has that look of, what the crap are you guys talking about?
Yeah, you're not missing much because, well, Tekken's weird, and they think their storytelling is much better to the point where they decide to make a CG animated film about a cyborg and a schoolgirl who has a super fast, super strong panda, and expecting it to do better than the straight-to-DVD live-action film.
Before we move on, thoughts?
Well,
Alex, thoughts on what you just heard.
On Pokken Tournament or all that shit you guys should
yeah, the CG movie. Like, would you see that?
Yeah, I'll see that. And I'll even review it too.
Excellent. Yeah, exactly. Oh, excellent.
Yeah. Well,
people.
Yeah. Well, back on the subject of Pokken Tournament, although I'm okay with kind of some aspects of the roster, there is one character that I just have to wonder why, and I really wish Aldo were here to comment. But seriously, Pikachu Libre.
I know.
I mean, could you not have come up with a better name? I mean, it's just, Lucha Pikachu. At least feels a little bit better because
would people like to see me do this live? Would people like to see? I actually have not seen this trailer just yet.
I'm watching the trailer as we speak, and yeah.
Let's do this live. Let's do this live.
All right. Well, whose screen am I setting it to? Adam's or Alex's?
Set it to mine, and you'll get my reactions live.
All right. So, and another first, a live reaction to the Pokken Tournament trailer, completely bit crushed and over the internet. So we've got Blaziken,
Lucario. Okay, there's some potential here.
Wii U, that's my favorite character.
I'm guessing they're going for like a Soul Kai thing with Lucario and Blaziken from the looks of it. And of course, Pikachu.
Footage taken from arcade.
Then Machamp, Charizard, Gengar. Yet no Nidorino. That would have been perfect to do to recreate the intro. And then Gardevoir, which the internet has more or less ruined for me.
Damn you, DeviantArt.
And then they have assists, which must be really weird since some of them, I swear, are like the smaller, less evolved forms of some of the fighters, but I could be wrong. Again, not a big Poke fan. Kenshiro called. He wants his moveset back. So it's clear that they're going to be putting in Mega Evolutions as well, which means the gameplay will be incredibly unbalanced. And of course... Okay, why? Why? I mean, you could have just called him Luchachu, and that would have worked better. But no, I guess they just... So many names you could have called him, but Pikachu Libre is the one you stick with? I mean, seriously?
why is this Pikachu wearing a Lucha Libre mask?
And apparently Adam's like having a seizure.
What? What? Okay. Look, just because you're in Smash doesn't necessarily mean you've got a moveset, much less an alternate costume where apparently you're from something out of freaking, what was it, WB show that was based on Lucha Libre?
Lucha.
Lucha Lucha. That's exactly what that reminded me of.
Well, could have been worse. They could have based it off Los Luchadores, Saban's show about Lucha Libre.
How many electric types could you have actually ripped out to be able to do this? You could have done freaking, you had Suicune, so you could have done something on 4 legs. You could have done Hitmonchamp, which was not there. What?
Or how about
Howlucha? Fighting
Howlucha?
Pokemon?
Yeah, like, what about Howlucha? The Lucha's already in the name. I mean, gah!
There are so many fighting types that are not even being shown there that what? Hitmonlee and Hitmonchamp and Hitmontop didn't make the cut?
Well, again, keep in mind, this is not the final roster
No.
for the game. This is just what we've initially seen. And, I mean, I'm sorry, Pikachu Libre. That is just so stupid!
Why?
I mean, at least with Cosplay Pikachu in Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, it made a little bit of sense since you got him or her through the Pokemon contest, and mainly because Pikachu was very hard to get access to in the game itself. At least there it made sense. But they're kind of playing their hand a little too early in this case. That's like something you'd have as DLC, not at launch.
Coming soon. Right as soon as this launches. Since Pikachu is in Smash, we have to let the other little troll out. The smiling serial killer makes her appearance. Jigglypuff, first DLC character. The eyes will tell the whole story.
Considering your mic is distorting right now, that really worked very efficiently.
I'm going to leave funny on that. But, I mean, seriously, like, I get that you want to have additional costumes, but Pikachu Libre just doesn't make sense. I mean, that makes about as much sense as having the Bikini Lucario. It doesn't matter.
Damn you, DeviantArt.
Go to the internet, because that exists.
Of course it exists. It's on the internet.
So, that's one of those things that's kind of frustrating about it, but you know what? I'd play this game. I think it'll be well done. Namco at least has kind of the Tekken engine under scrutiny and down to some extent. I heard they had issues in their recent games, but the bottom line is that before I get legitimately excited about this, I want a full roster. Because if certain fighting staples, like the wonderful and insane Brady, if he's not in it, then I'm gonna go, what the crap are you smoking?
Yeah, and it's also a case of looking at the gameplay. It looks like they're kind of copying the Naruto Ninja Storm gameplay,
Yes.
where it's from a third-person perspective, and not really sure how to feel about that choice, because I know that the Tekken engine never really ran on that type of gameplay, at least to my knowledge. So
No, it didn't. I think it was similar to the way that people actually described it to me was it was a simplistic version of Soul Calibur. And I've only played a couple of Tekken games, so I can't really attest to that.
yeah, now I just know that that the camera still kept the people on the right and left sides of the frame. It didn't have a third-person camera mode, which, although apparently there was a first-person mode, but that may have been that may not necessarily have been Tekken, that may have been Virtua Fighter. I may be getting it confused, but it's just a case. Who knows? Maybe they'll find a way to make it work. Maybe that's something they're kind of going into. And I mean, Naruto Ninja Storm at least handled that setup somewhat well. So who knows? It might be pretty decent. It's just.
Do you want to know what this has a better chance of setting up than Nintendo working with Hollywood again?
Yeah.
4, baby! 4!
Yeah, he's the king of segues tonight because that is the next story, the top story of the entertainment hour. So, as you see, our Nintendo talk has bridged the 2 hours. As in addition to announcing that Pokken Tournament is coming to the U.S., Miyamoto has gone on record saying that they're looking to get back into the film industry.
Yes. So everything that I've read on this, they don't necessarily have any like conceptual movies that they want to do, but it's fairly safe to say that the Red Plumber would make a debut somewhere in that list because he's the leading kind of franchise there. I've already had like a dozen people go, "Legend of Zelda movie, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming." No, it's not necessarily coming because
Yeah, and from looking at what Miyamoto's actually officially said, it says, and here's the exact quote from Fortune magazine. For Nintendo IP, a more active approach will be taken in areas outside of video game business, including visual content production and character merchandising.
Yeah.
And it was an understated announcement, but a lot of people were surprised by it. And especially given the track record of them lending their characters to other films. I mean, on one hand, you have Wreck-It Ralph, which did really well, and they lended Bowser to the film. But then earlier this year, you had them lending Donkey Kong to Pixels, and that was after months and months of negotiation between Sony and Nintendo to get permission to use Donkey Kong. And that film did not do that well, and it has a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. I don't know necessarily, like, obviously I'm not going to go see it, because Pixels, to me, it was a cool concept on paper until I saw a trailer, and then I was done with it. But also, given the recent hatred that's come towards Adam Sandler, I actually wonder if that's also kind of colored that show out, or whatever the word I'm looking for is.
Yeah, and from the looks of it, it just seems to be that Nintendo's software planning and development division is going to be the one in charge of overseeing all of the various efforts, all of various entertainment efforts for film and television. It's kind of similar to what Konami and Ubisoft were doing with the films based on their stuff, like with Konami looking over the Silent Hill movies, and with Ubisoft looking over the Need for Speed movie. They're going to be in a very active role, actively controlling how their property is portrayed. Let's just hope they don't make the same mistake as Namco.
Well, but see, here's the other thing too. It's Nintendo, so at that point, they're probably even going to be worse on the set. Like, if you are not holding true to any authenticity of like Mario or Star Fox or F-Zero, they're going to come down hard on you.
Yeah, but granted,
they even just not let you do it.
Yeah, but granted, they've had good relationships with the Japanese production companies. Look at the Pokemon series. It has like 20+ anime movies, like multiple seasons, and it's still going strong. That they've also had.
You just answered your own thing, Romney. Working with Japanese companies. This is going to be like possibility of working with American companies, and Nintendo already has a viewpoint on us, which is look at the original Mario movie. What happened there?
Yeah, of course, that one was more Nintendo's own fault, since they didn't really take an active role, and they decided to give the rights to an obscure company as opposed to any of the major hitters. And a lot of the reason the film ended up as bad as it was just due to various coincidences. People being, like, the initial directors and writers were going to give it more of a fantasy sort of feel, but then they were fired, and then they brought on 2 replacement writers who were then trying to make it something like Mad Max, but then Disney bought the rights to the Mario film, and then they said, hey, this is too dark, you need to lighten it up. And so that was a film plagued with problems from the word go. So, and again, it's not something that, Nintendo's worked well with Japanese companies. I mean, there's the Pokemon movies and TV show, there's the 2 Animal Crossing movies that they produced.
Yeah.
And so they're open to the idea, it's just that they're trying to find the kind of company they can trust. And so they would probably want to go to someone like Sony, which has its foot in the film industry, or they might want to try going with Disney, which has an established family-friendly image, or they could go with Warner Brothers, who would just, I don't know. It's a very sticky subject because it kind of comes down to which studio is going to snatch this up.
It just depends. So I can already tell you one company that won't, and it's just because Nintendo still has kind of a bad relationship with them, which is Universal. They will not work with them, so we can already rule them out.
Well, not necessarily, because they are working with them to put in Nintendo attractions at their theme parks.
They are, but Nintendo still holds a little, at least from what I've been told, Nintendo still holds a little bit of a grudge over the lawsuit. So they're working with them, but they're also not giving them everything on their hand just yet. So at that point, some of the examples that even this article tries to give is, does this mean we will actually get the live-action Legend of Zelda Netflix series? No, it doesn't. Because at that point, they need to work out something with the studio first, and at this given moment, I can't really think of anybody aside from Disney. I actually think those two would be so frustrated with each other that about a month later we'd find out that they fell out. I can't think of a company that would be able to do that without having huge scrutiny by Nintendo, not even having like an American rep. It'd probably be a Japanese rep to make sure that they hold true to the continuity.
And that's why I think either Sony or Warner Brothers might have a better shot, because they actually have an active presence in Japan. Sony Pictures, like Sony is a Japanese company, so they have that vote of confidence. But then Warner Brothers Japan actually holds a lot of sway over the Japanese entertainment industry. A lot of known films. I mean, for example, the Death Note movies were produced by Warner Brothers Japan. There's a lot of... And so Warner Brothers might have a good shot because they have an established presence in Japan. Sony might have a better shot because of the fact that it's a Japanese-run company, and given the efforts of Avi Arad, they may even look at Avi Arad's track record and say, well, he did really well for bringing Marvel back, so he might be able to handle our stuff a little bit better.
Yeah, but then at that point, I would actually say it's more likely that they would work with Warner Brothers because, as we've heard over the years, a grudge in Japanese business is not easily forgotten. And something tells me that if it isn't Nintendo that still holds that grudge with Sony, Sony is the one that holds that grudge with Nintendo. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I don't think either of them wants to work with each other. So as much as I would like to be able to see Sony Pictures get involved, I think the fact that it has simply Sony in the name already says to Nintendo, no, we're not going to work with them. Which is sad, because I think Sony would be able to do something great with it. I have more faith in Sony than I do Warner Brothers, for crying out loud.
Yeah. I mean, one company that I would want to actually handle some of this stuff would be a company like Legendary. Problem is, Legendary is currently working with Universal. So it's tricky, unless Nintendo decides to pull a Marvel and open their own film company, which is highly unlikely because that didn't work out for Square Enix. So...
But could you totally see Nintendo going that route, though?
Possibly, given that they've been trying to spread across multiple media. So they wouldn't necessarily establish it as a world... they'd want to basically mimic what they have, the arrangement they have with Nintendo of Japan and Nintendo of America, where they would create Nintendo Pictures Japan, and then you'd have an American studio that would be just a glorified distribution arm.
Can I just say for the record, guys, also, certain franchises will probably not make the cut in this regard. I mean, as much as I don't want to destroy your dreams of a Legend of Zelda series, but Zelda is oh my gosh, it is such a upheld franchise by Nintendo that I really think that unless Nintendo was 90% involved in that, you're not going to get access to that. If anything, they will experiment with that first. They're not going to lead with Zelda on that. They would experiment. They'd let you get Metroid. They'd let you get Star Fox and see what you did with it.
Yeah, probably not even Star Fox. Metroid is probably the more likely one, since that one has kind of a more of a quote-unquote Western appeal, especially if you were to get the right kind of filmmaker on it. I mean, James Cameron would probably do really amazingly with Metroid, and they could probably even say, hey, if you do the Metroid film, we can help you negotiate for the rights to battle Angel Alita, because I know he's been gunning after that for years. And Nintendo hasn't...
That's the steps that you would go through. You do a Metroid film, and then if that did really, really well, then they'd say, okay, well, we'll hand you Mario, and see how well you do with that. And then maybe they'd consider Zelda. That's how high they hold that franchise. They would let you mess with the plumber first, because already he can be salvaged.
Mm-hmm.
Zelda can't really.
Yeah.
And so I hate to burst your bubble there, but the bottom line is that it will be baby steps.
They would probably even start with even some of the smaller franchises. I mean, they wouldn't necessarily want to start with something super niche like Mother, but they would want to start with something that doesn't have as much pull to it. I mean, for example, if they want to get their hands on fantasy but don't want to do Zelda, then they would probably say, hey, let's pull out something like Golden Sun, for example. Have someone do a Golden Sun movie and see how they can handle doing that on a smaller budget before letting them handle Zelda on a much larger budget. But then we might end up with a Roger Corman version of Golden Sun if they were to do that.
But there's going to be tiers to this, and that's the sad part of this whole thing is Nintendo loves the franchises, and I actually would say they probably wouldn't even let you start there. They'd probably put you at the bottom of the barrel to some extent and make you work with, say, I don't know, the most recent game that's coming out at that given moment. So if that's Metroid Prime Kitty version, then it would be a Metroid movie. Just to be able to advertise the game as well as advertise the movie, maybe even make them interchangeable, and then you would go up the tiers if you did well. But, wow, I can already tell you there'd be problems with adapting some of this stuff to film. Metroid would work perfectly, I think, but like another one that people have brought up, let's get an F-Zero movie. Given how Speed Racer did, do you really think that would work?
And especially given how well the anime did, because I remember the anime of F-Zero didn't actually do that well in Japan either.
Yeah, so at that point, we have some steps to go through before that even happens. I actually dare say, you wouldn't even get Metroid right off the bat. You'd get, like, Custom Robo first off.
Or, like, Famicom Detective Club would probably be one they could do, because that's one you could do on a budget, because it would just basically be a murder mystery.
Yeah, that's where you have to go first. But I do like this idea. I mean, I'm not trying to be Mr. Negative with it. It's just, it's Nintendo and it's films, and I've already been jaded by the fact that the Mario Brothers movie exists, and also the fact that The Wizard, the only thing that was good about that movie was the debut of Mario 3. It was basically a walking game trailer. So at that point, I really am worried about this whole concept, especially since Nintendo has not learned from their past.
Well, and it's actually they seem to, because again, with the Mario Brothers movie, they did not have any control, and they pretty much said we're not interested in working with the studio. And we think that a Mario movie is not going to hurt our brand all that much. And so, given that Nintendo's going to take more of an active role, that might be them learning their lesson a little bit, because they think, well, we need to have a little bit more control over our movies because that is seen as part of our brand. Again, look at what Konami did. Look at what Ubisoft has been trying to do. Especially, I mean, Need for Speed was the first one. They're trying to do the same thing with Assassin's Creed and Splinter Cell as well. It's getting tricky.
Well, and on top of that, I think another thing that will tell us whether or not it's a good idea for Nintendo to do this, and people are going to skewer me for saying this, but I'm really interested in the fact that along with this announcement also came the official announcement from Disney that Wreck-It Ralph 2 would have Mario in it. So the plumber would make an appearance. Okay, that's great. How much screen time is he going to have?
Probably about as much as Sonic.
Because here's the thing. Nintendo could easily just nitpick that into oblivion. And if they do that with Wreck-It Ralph 2, then I already do not have much hope for, say, trying to bring any of these other movie franchises to life. Because Nintendo will nitpick them to death. And here's the thing. Nintendo has to be able to trust the director that they decide to put with it. And the bottom line is that if, let's just say for the sake of argument, Nintendo goes to DreamWorks. This is not going to happen because I think DreamWorks is Universal.
No, actually, DreamWorks is owned by Fox, and Fox is actually a contender we forgot about.
Yeah, they do. So Nintendo goes to DreamWorks. Then DreamWorks decides, Michael Bay, you are the perfect person to come and do this movie. And Nintendo disagrees with that. Well, but Fox would be able to look them in the eye and go, but this is our call. You want our best director? This is him.
Well, yeah, but then Nintendo would then go back and say, well, then we can just pull our license.
And that's your problem, is that at that point, we can all be excited about a Super Mario movie. Oh, it's being directed by Michael Bay? Nope, not happening anymore.
Yeah, of course, I probably doubt it would happen because I think Michael Bay is attached with Paramount and not really Fox. So that's one moderate sigh of relief, but then we'd run the risk of getting stuck with people like Brett Ratner.
Brett Ratner, Quentin Tarantino has been recommended it for a couple of Nintendo films.
Well,
that doesn't make any sense.
Tarantino won't do it. It's not a Tarantino style to do a Nintendo
You know, I
game
actually could see Tarantino doing a Nintendo movie. It would just depend on what IP he's given. Because there are some Nintendo IP that could lend itself to a Tarantino treatment.
Doom, maybe. I know that's not necessarily a Nintendo IP. I'm just saying, in terms of a video game movie, Doom is the only thing I can see Tarantino doing.
Beautiful Joe. He could probably do that one.
Yeah,
since
he could probably do that.
Yeah.
But isn't that more a Capcom thing?
It is, but again, going off of Alex's example of video game movies that Tarantino could do justice to, like Virtual Joe would probably be a perfect Tarantino film, because Tarantino is all about poking fun at the film medium and being like, it's a movie, don't take it super seriously, and so Beautiful Joe would be the perfect franchise for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that you could get, is that you could actually have this handed over to somebody like Brett Ratner, and them knowing jack crap about what they're trying to sell, and then at that point trying to make a movie off of it, and then we all get mad, and Nintendo doesn't understand because, well, they let us make some movies, but you got a crap director. Okay, well then we'll go with this Bowl guy. We'll let him make some movies.
Yeah, and again, that's why Nintendo is saying they're going to take more control, meaning that, again, like Ubisoft had control over what directors and who they hired for Need for Speed. That's why they got Aaron Paul. And it's the same. And it's the same thing that Marvel did, where Marvel said we want to be able to choose what directors we use. Nintendo is probably looking to have a situation closer to that, and so we might run into the example of maybe them choosing specific Japanese directors having to work with U.S. crews. But then we run into the issue that they ran into for Power Rangers Wild Force, where you have directors that don't speak English trying to direct English-speaking actors.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I'm basing this off of a lot of apprehension. You know, Nintendo does not have exactly the best reputation for working with others, but this could technically work out for them in the long run. It would be their properties, which are adored by the U.S. audience. You know, there's a reason that the Nintendo systems are considered family consoles these days. It's because they are. You know, this is the console that your kids or my kid will be introduced to video games with. Mm-hmm. So it's entirely possible. But yeah, it's natural to have at least some level of apprehension about it.
Yeah, and then again, they're not completely adhering solely to the family-friendly image, especially when you look at how they marketed Fire Emblem Awakening, and kind of actually added on a little bit of the fan service for Fire Emblem Awakening. So they wouldn't completely adhere all of the Nintendo movies to just G rating or PG rating family-friendly fare. They would want to at least have it be loyal to the brand. So Metroid, you'd probably get PG-13. You wouldn't get an R per se, but it definitely would be a PG-13 that would definitely ride the line a little bit, especially if they want to emphasize the isolation kind of. It basically would be Alien. That's what Metroid would be. Metroid would just be a remake of Alien, except with Metroid characters.
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, it really we have to take a wait-and-see attitude, really, because Nintendo has to work out those deals first. And I'm more interested in that part of it. You know, what is Nintendo willing to do to get this to happen? What are they willing to deal with from directors or whatnot? And we can't answer that until they actually get there.
Yeah.
But I guess in the meantime, we actually have to move through some of these stories. So
which means we're gonna have to probably cut down one of the more complex ones. So let's move on to another bit of interesting news that I wish Aldo were here to comment on, and that is that Marvel has introduced a new type of variant cover for their comics that will be released throughout the month of October. And that is the idea of cosplay variants. Now I'm going to pull up an image here real quick to kind of show you what that will look like.
Yep. Actually, why don't you let me do it, because I actually have the IGN story, which
I've already got it.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, this is an example of one of the covers we would probably see from Marvel over the course of October. They've released a full line of comics that are going to have it, and it's basically going to be comic covers featuring known cosplayers cosplaying as the various characters of the Marvel Universe, as a way of kind of reaching out, showing solidarity with some of these fans. At least that's the approach that Marvel is hoping to take by introducing the idea of the cosplay variants. Now, I'm curious because, well...
Okay, give me a quick second here, and we can actually show some other legitimate covers. So we also have A-Force, which it looks like a cosplayer of She-Hulk. We have Ant-Man. So I actually have looked through a lot of these, but obviously they picked the cream of the crop as far as these are concerned. Miss Marvel right here, or Captain Marvel. That's actually not bad, considering. So these are basically going to head up the current Marvel. Is it like for a month? Is that how long they were going to do it?
Yeah, basically through the entire run of October, they have the entire list of comics right here that they're going to be dealing with. And so it would be with A-Force #1, Amazing Spider-Man #1, Astonishing Ant-Man #1, Avengers #0, Captain Marvel #1, Daredevil #1, Doctor Strange #1, Extraordinary X-Men #1, Guardians of the Galaxy #1, Invincible Iron Man #1, Miss Marvel #1, Nova #1, Sam Wilson Captain America #1, Spider-Gwen #1, which was the first cover we saw, Spider-Woman #1, The Mighty Thor, which Adam currently has displaying.
Can I just make a quick comment on this one? Now we know where Chief O'Brien went from Star Trek The Next Generation.
He went to Asgard?
Yeah, fairly so, because, dude, he looks like O'Brien! That's kind of funny, actually.
Yeah,
we have Guardians of the Galaxy right here, so that is Corona.
Yeah. And going down the list, you've got Mighty Thor #1, Mighty Thor #2, Uncanny Avengers #1, and then Uncanny Inhumans #1, and then the last one, that would be the 21st comic, is currently listed as classified.
Okay, so we have Invincible Iron Man here, and then we also have another advertisement. Come on, get rid of that. All new Inhumans, so that's a really good cosplay design. And then we also have the Mighty Thor, Femthor. I didn't realize we already have cosplay of her. Nova. We have another Miss Marvel. And Amazing Spider-Man, and more advertisements. Dang it, IGN! Uncanny Avengers. I'm liking this. I like this idea. Dare I actually say this is... So another story actually leaked on this that I'm bringing up because, heaven forbid, I bring up all this stuff, but I don't know if you guys saw the DC variant covers that will involve Looney Tunes.
I've seen some of the drawings and some of the sketches that artists have been putting out for that, and they look somewhat interesting.
That's what makes me, or that's what I think of, like, right off the top of this. I like the fact that they're taking characters and putting legitimate cosplayers to them. This is basically what a cosplayer's dream is. It's for you to get featured on Spider-Gwen whatever, because you're immortalized at that point. You know, not just in a weird DeviantArt fashion. You're immortalized by Marvel.
Yeah,
out
and the marketing SVP sales and marketing SVP of sales and marketing, David Gabriel, has gone on record saying, "Cosplayers are taking over. Each convention I go to, it seems like there are more and more fans dressing up like their favorite Marvel characters. These homemade handcrafted costumes are so elaborate, it looks like they left off the page. The cosplay variant is our way of supporting a community that supports us." So it's kind of good on Marvel for trying to establish that solidarity with their fan base, especially considering how well the movies have been panning out for them and introducing a lot of people to these characters. And so, who knows? Maybe this might get more people to pick them up. I mean, I know a lot of people who tend to collect variant covers are probably going to be grabbing a bunch of them. So, yeah, interesting little thing that Marvel's deciding to do to kind of get into what I'm considering the variant cover arms race that DC has more or less started.
So, first of all, one of the things that I would say on this matter, and people are going to say I'm horribly wrong and I don't care, a lot of stigmas that are given by cosplayers is that, especially for women, and it's not really all that fair, is that these are just women who are just trying to get into their modeling career, and so they're taking advantage of the current popular thing at that point and doing that. I would actually not agree with this. I think this is more in the tasteful concept, and the people that they've gotten are legitimate geeks. How do I know this? Because, well, I've seen a dozen Starfire cosplays that have gone way more sexy than they needed to, and those are usually the girls that don't necessarily know who the character is. Maybe they do, but they also want to go into things like modeling and stuff like that. But every pick that we just barely showed is legitimate geeks. They are passionate about what they're making. This is not I love people who send me the whole cardboard Iron Man that is just absolute crap. It looks like they literally took like a Kmart box that they bought and just covered it in yellow and red. These are people that legitimately cared about how these characters looked, and through their own inspiration, made a costume that works with the character. Female Thor is the perfect example of this because, well, there isn't much right now on Female Thor. Female Thor is a new concept. So it'd be interesting if this cosplayer did a bunch of what-if scenarios here. But most of the time, I think this is actually inspired by the comic itself. And, you know, David Gabriel's right. These geeks are the most passionate because they take their everyday knowledge and apply it into this. And, I mean, I still remember seeing devs like from Blizzard or Yacht Club, when they see authentic cosplays of the characters they've created, it blows their mind. Can you imagine what's happening when Marvel sees this, when DC sees it?
Yeah, especially when they're like new characters that people have created. I mean, this is an extreme example. It just makes you wonder kind of what Rob Liefeld is probably thinking whenever he sees people cosplaying as characters like Spawn or as Deadpool or as any of the people from Image.
Well, I think at that point he just doesn't want to talk to anybody who's cosplaying as Deadpool. Since Deadpool, like all the Deadpools that Ken mentioned from what I've heard, just love to be trolls at that point because they're Deadpool. They don't care. But I would guarantee that Rob has had a moment where somebody dressed up as Cable, or somebody dressed up as Spawn, or who's the other? Chapel from his own comics, and those, I mean, that's what Rob lives for. That's why he got into it, because he, you know, granted a lot of his characters are blatant ripoffs, but that's why he got into it. He wanted to be able to make these characters. And so at that point, you got to wonder if just like a slight tear comes to Rob's eyes when he sees somebody dressed up as Chapel. Because he made that, and that's a good thing. Have a cosplayer coming out as Spider-Gwen. I don't even know jack about Spider-Gwen, and I can already tell you this picture looks freaking awesome.
Yeah, and again, it's just nice when a company is acknowledging its fan base and acknowledging, hey, we appreciate that you're passionate about the stuff that we create, the stuff that we're churning out. It's good encouragement, and so it's nice when companies like this to do a nice like wink and nod to the fans, like saying, hey, here's something to kind of acknowledge that, yeah, we know you exist, and yeah, you matter, stuff like that, and it's cool. That's all I can really say is that it's cool.
If anything, it makes me hopeful that they have a little bit more of a more active relationship with them. If they like what they see, then maybe these cosplayers become kind of the next conceptual model for like a reboot of the character. Or maybe they get their own character inspirations. I mean, I've already seen, I don't know if people actually saw this, and we actually did get a fan request to do this, but the whole Ronda Rousey thing now that's happening with the whole campaign to make her Captain Marvel. First of all, I don't know jack about her UFC career. I wish I could say I did, but I don't. The most that I know about her UFC career is that she went out onto a WWE ring with an It's Over 9,000 t-shirt, and it was hilarious. And I've seen the picture, and it's cool. But then I saw the whole conceptual art of putting her into the Captain Marvel kind of outfit, and I'm not against it. You know, it's just one of those things where I would like to see an actual audition for her.
Yeah, in my case, I'm kind of against it, but not because I don't think she looks good. Ronda Rousey can't act. That's the thing. I mean, I saw her in
actual acting of her.
Yeah, I've seen her actually try to act, and in Furious 7, I mean, it's a big part where she's just meant to be a goon, but I mean, she at least did better in Entourage because she was playing herself, but I mean, if she wants to be Captain Marvel, she needs to seriously take some acting classes because she is not a good actress. She should stick to fighting. That's what she's good at. But as for acting...
But Romney, Jason David Frank is fighting, and he's a good actor. He was an actor first, guys.
And whether or not he's good is up for debate, because, well...
Hey, are you dissing Tommy? Are you dissing Tommy?
Yeah, I'm dissing Tommy. Bring it. I'll say it. Look at it. I mean, again, nothing against Jason David Frank. I appreciate that he was Tommy, and I like how he does at least like still have like loyalty to the character and is at least wanting to keep that character. But in those early days, his acting wasn't necessarily the greatest. I mean, he got, again, like any of the other Power Rangers actors, he improved with experience. But it's kind of the same case of, yeah.
Well, there's actually, okay, I love you, Jason. I really do. I especially love seeing your Facebook stuff with your daughter. That is awesome. But I think even he would admit that he doesn't have the greatest of acting skills when the next job that he could get after Power Rangers was, and I kid you not, my sister actually had to bring this to my attention, MTV's Undressed. That was the next role he got after Power Rangers.
Yeah, then there's also his spots on Family Matters.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of the case of, yeah, again, I have a lot of respect for Jason David Frank, but even then, it's kind of the case of, if you want to portray someone like Captain Marvel, it can't just be about the physique. A lot of people are saying, oh, Ronda Rousey should play Wonder Woman, but it's the same issue. She can't act. Ronda Rousey is not that great of an actress. Again, if she ever sees this, I am probably signing my death warrant by saying this.
We appreciate you, Ronda, but this is, even you would acknowledge, this is not your craft.
Yeah, again, I mean, if she's willing to actually put in the time and effort to take, like, acting classes, working with acting...
Then at that point, sure, let's give her a shot. But,
yeah, she has to put in the effort. That's the key thing.
Yeah, but at that point, let's just say, for the sake of argument, she does that. I would give her the credit, boys and girls. I would give her the credit because she would, as far as I am concerned, at least as far as what I've been shown, she has gone more out of her way than Gal Gadot has. I'd give her that credit if she did that. But she has to do that first. And even she will be the first to admit it. I'm sure she'd love to play Captain Marvel, but it would require sacrifices from her. And my question is, are you willing to do that? I get it. You could eat nothing but egg whites. You've proven you could do that. But could you go to acting school and learn how to play this character? Would you do your homework and read all the various different character tones of Carol Danvers? I think there are other people who have played Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel. Would you read all those variations and understand who they are? That's more what I'm interested in with Ronda Rousey. So if she did that, great. I'd give her all props, and I would laud her for that, especially if she was open about it. But she has to do that first.
Mm-hmm. So, and again, again, a lot of people think, oh, you're just being hard. I've seen her try to act. Again, Entourage, she was playing herself, and so she had an easier time doing that. But again, Furious 7, that is probably some of the worst, most stilted delivery of dialogue, and it's just like, oh, I'd hope an intruder would show up. These parts are really boring, and yeah, I mean, it's sad when you have worse acting than Troll 2.
Which also makes me kind of sad because, well, the reason the gal is Wonder Woman is because of Furious 7, isn't it?
Because of the Fast and the Furious films in general, is because she's established herself in those movies, and it's just kind of the case of, I mean, with Ronda Rousey, it was just a small, really small role in Furious 7 as just a goon they have to fight. It's just, again...
I got a great idea for this. Rhonda, come on, Geek News Reviews and Opinions. We'll interview you. And if you are the candidate that should play Carol Danvers, because you know what? I have hammered on this who knows how many times. Because I already have potential candidates that I want to see as Carol Danvers. You want to come on this show and tell us why you should be that person and what you're willing to do it? I'll bring you on.
Just hopefully by remote. I kind of want to keep my skull where it is.
No. Well, obviously we'd have to do it that way, but I'm just saying. I offered the same invite to Gal. It's not going to happen, but I'll offer it to Rhonda. Come on, I'll interview you, and if I think you're the perfect candidate for Carol Danvers, good on you.
Yeah, it just, again, the other thing to consider, it depends on what director is going to helm the Captain Marvel movie and who they're going to have behind it. That's another big key factor with these movies that a lot of people tend to forget, because it's one thing to have an actor playing a role, and they could be perfect for the part. They could actually be really passionate about the role. But then if you put them with a really bad director who doesn't know what they're doing, then even a good actor can be in a bad movie if the director is a total, idiot. I mean,
douche.
Yeah, case in point, The Lone Ranger. I mean, Armie Hammer would have been a really good choice for The Lone Ranger. But I'm sorry, as much as I like Gore Verbinski, that was just not one of his best films. I mean, he was basically just trying to make Pirates of the Caribbean in the Old West. He did not even try that, and it's really, I mean, seriously, Johnny Depp should not have played Tonto.
Can I please expand this now? Josh Trank.
Yeah. Point being, there's a lot of bad directors like Josh Trank, Paul W.S. Anderson. I mean, Uwe Boll, we've hammered on numerous times. Speaking of people who would probably kill us.
Can I just say for the record, now that we brought up Josh Trank, can we just not let Hollywood do Doctor Doom anymore? Can we just not let them? Because they obviously don't get how to do him. Can we just do that?
It's sad when the Roger Corman version seems to get the Fantastic Four more right than all of the other higher budget films.
Yes! Holy crap, man! It's the one complaint I have with both of the films, is you couldn't get one of the simplest villains right. I mean, when you break down Doctor Doom, when you break down Victor Von Doom, he is not that hard. He is not. He's a dude walking around in a suit of armor with a green tunic, and he is basically twirling his mustache at the entire world while he rules the country. How is this hard?
He's basically Moriarty if he was Iron Man. That's basically Doctor Doom in a nutshell, is that he's out to prove... I mean, my favorite quote from Stan Lee is that Doctor Doom would eat a baby's head in front of his mother if it would somehow prove he was smarter than Reed Richards.
There you go. Jimmy Christmas Man. Can we just not do Doctor Doom anymore? Apparently Hollywood can't do Doctor Doom. They can't do a simple concept like that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry, ran over.
Yeah, we've drowned out. Alex, what are your thoughts on the cosplay variants? Well, Adam takes a moment to breathe.
I don't know. I kind of tuned out about an hour ago. all I gotta say is, they look good. They're cosplayers, and obviously if they're going to be featured on covers, of course they're going to be good. It's cosplay.
Brand this for Alex so that he could be able to understand this. So let's just say like the most popular anime cosplayers got featured in Shonen Jump, or featured on Steam Detective, or various other active mangas right now.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be a good idea or a bad idea?
Yeah, I think it would be a pretty interesting idea, because there's some really good anime cosplayers out there too, and I've seen plenty of those. And well, cosplaying, I don't know if they've ever been featured on like actual manga magazines, but I've seen professional cosplayers out of Japan, and they always pull it off really well, right down to pretty much getting colored contacts. Yeah, I admire those who can dedicate themselves to cosplaying and dressing up. It's obviously a fun craft for you, and I admire you for it.
Yeah, and I mean, that would be an interesting prize for those who go all the way to World Cosplay Summit, which is in Japan, which is kind of a shame that they don't allow Shueisha cosplays anymore, because apparently Hirohiko Araki has a very bad temper.
I mean, I know that Blizzard has even acknowledged the cosplay that comes to BlizzCon and that they see throughout their convention appearances is awesome. The only reason that they don't really do anything major with them is because sometimes the big elaborate cosplays tend to break rules. And so at that point, it doesn't really seem all that worthwhile for them to get involved with that. But they still applaud the cosplaying community every time they come out to BlizzCon, and they have such authentic costumes. And you know what? Stan Lee is another one of those guys where he sees like a Spider-Man cosplay, and he acknowledges it. And he's 90, guys! He goes up and shakes the dang hand. So at that point, I like this idea because it allows for the culture to introduce new ways for us to be able to get to know each other.
Yeah.
You know, because this basically what this looks like to me is if Marvel does it, then DC would do it.
Yeah.
Eventually, BioWare doing it.
Yeah, that does remind me. Have any of you seen the picture of Stan Lee in the standoff with Deadpool?
I have not.
Yeah, literally.
I need to see this now.
Yeah, it's at a convention where Stan Lee and Deadpool are like having a Mexican standoff with guns. It's actually amazing.
I'm bringing this up right now. So Stan Lee, Deadpool. Let's see.
Doing it live.
I have to see this now because it would be awesome. Mexican standoff, is that what you said it was?
Well, that's kind of what I said it was, because it's literally a picture of like Stan Lee has one gun, Deadpool has another, and they're literally like. Yeah, okay, bring it up on screen share. Let's show it to the audience.
Yeah, I gotta bring this up. This is awesome. So how old is Stan Lee now?
He's in his 90s.
He's
94. 92? Okay. So, yeah, this is great. Especially just the look of on Stanley's face of, no, you put down the gun. No, you put down the gun, sir. And here's the best part about it: the only person that is holding guns in this picture is Stan Lee. Like, some people might think Deadpool has a gun in his hand. No, that's his finger right there, guys. And we don't know what's in the other hand. That is great. I love Stan Lee. He is such a good character when it comes to stuff like this. All right, but with that said, okay, I'm derailing. I know I am.
All right. Well, that's a good note to end on, as this next story, which will be our last story for tonight, just due to time, is on a bit of a darker note. Not as much to raise the Prozac budget, but enough that we will probably need to look at a basket of kittens. As, for some of you who may not know, there's actually currently a lawsuit in dispute that is accusing the three major animation giants, DreamWorks, Disney, and Sony Pictures Animation, of fixing wages and basically making it so that if an animator leaves one company, they cannot get hired at any of the other two. Now, most recently, a federal judge has refused to dismiss a lawsuit claiming that Walt Disney, like the Walt Disney Company, DreamWorks Animation, and Sony Imageworks, and other companies, violated antitrust laws by conspiring to set animation wages via non-poaching agreements. And that's where the idea of an animator leaving one company cannot go to the other, that's where the whole idea of anti-poaching agreements. And it's actually something that's been kind of debated hotly in a lot of artistic circles because of how hard it is to actually get paid a living wage as an artist or as an animator.
Well, and on top of that, I mean, comics still have this issue, don't they? They're still trying to work out this whole thing because you have people like Neil Gaiman who jump from ship to ship to ship.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why Rob Liefeld left to start Image, is that the people, because they all used to work at Marvel, but then all these people went to found Image because of some of the BS practices that they had. And so far,
the funny part is that comics are still dealing with this issue. They haven't even resolved it yet. And now we're hearing about how the animation companies are having that issue too.
Yeah. Yeah, so far, to kind of give context, the workers contend, and this is direct from Variety, I'm reading it, that the workers contend that the roots of the anti-poaching agreements go back to the mid-1980s when George Lucas and Ed Catmull, the president of Pixar, agreed not to raid each other's employees. Other companies then joined in, the suit contends, with agreements on such things such as cold calling and notifying each other when making an offer to an employee of another company. The lawsuit cited emails between Catmull and human resources personnel and also claimed that Jobs and Jeffrey Katzenberg personally discussed DreamWorks joining the conspiracy. So the idea is that the lawsuit against these companies, which is not just Disney, Sony, and DreamWorks, but also Image Movers, Blue Sky Studios, Pixar, Lucasfilm, basically all of these the accusations that all of these companies are fixing animators' wages and basically conspiring to not allow any companies to steal from another one, which may sound good on paper, but again, going back to the wage-fixing thing, it basically means that if any of the companies is paying a crappy wage, then all of the companies are paying a crappy, not necessarily livable wage. And as someone who's actually studied animation, it is hard work. It is something that you would need to be paid a pretty good wage for because of the hours and late nights you would have to
Not only that, but you need to be paid a fairly good wage to be inspired to do your best. Let's just be honest about that. Because, I mean, I could totally see this going the other route where if they get paid a crap wage, are you really all that inspired to work your best on a project?
Yep. And it also
gets recognized.
And it also means that employees aren't able to really negotiate for better wages or better job conditions because of the fact that they have nowhere else to go. And that's why this thing is really messed up.
Yeah, but this lawsuit's been going on for a while, though, hasn't it?
It has, and this is most recently that a judge refused to dismiss a lawsuit, probably despite pressure from these various studios, basically citing that the plaintiffs have sufficiently alleged facts showing that the defendants reached an agreement to conspire, meaning that it's basically saying that the studios wanted the judge to dismiss the lawsuit, but the judge is saying no, they have a case, they have enough evidence and information indicating that you guys have been conspiring with one another to basically gouge the wages of these animators and basically try to rob them of their negotiating power. Because unlike the Writers Guild or the or the Directors Guild or even the Producers Guild. There isn't really an animation guild or an animators guild to actually negotiate these sorts of wages, because animators usually work at one company as opposed to being free agents like writers and directors.
And most of the time, they're free agents. That's just the bottom line of it. That's the way they get work, is that they have to be free agents at the beginning to get noticed by those companies so that they can in turn work for them. So this is already not in their favor to begin with, is what I'm saying. So it still sounds to me like this trial is still on a standstill.
It is, and it's basically
really not getting anywhere.
Yeah, it's not really getting anywhere, and it is on the heels of a lawsuit from way back in 2010 where Lucas and Pixar were sued, where Lucas, Pixar, along with Apple, Google, Adobe, Intel, and Intuit were sued because their no solicitation agreements prevented workers from negotiating for better wages and better job conditions, and they settled litigation by ending it for a period of 5 years and paying out, according to this, this is actually part, because there was another class action civil suit filed in 2011, and during the litigation, emails were disclosed that appeared to link to other companies, no poaching agreements, and basically that lawsuit was paid out by Lucasfilm and Pixar to the tune of $9 million, with $11 million coming from Intuit. And so this is just a side of the industry that nobody ever really gets to see, it just how messed up a lot of these people that run these companies can be.
Yeah. Well, it's more than that. I mean, the bottom line is that, or I don't want to say the bottom line, but it's very vague at this point. We've complained numerous times on the concept that Hollywood won't go the extra mile to be able to legitimately write a good story. They won't go the extra mile to hire legitimately new actors because it's too risky to do it. This is another thing right here, is that they are basically they're non-motivating animators. So, which is basically to me is one of the biggest oxymorons of this, is for an animator to get recognized, they have to go all out. Like, let's just say, for the sake of argument, Aaron Hansen decides he doesn't want to do Game Grumps anymore, he wants to do strictly animation. He'd have to work his butt off and make a huge portfolio and just wow the companies. That's what he'd have to do. And then when he got there, they're basically saying, oh no, you can't do that anymore. Can't do that. We can't have an inspired artist working in our ranks. What are you thinking, man? And so at that point, Aaron just kind of sits there and goes, so I can't think outside the box, but over the last couple of years, that's what I've been doing to get noticed, is thinking outside the box. And that's why I'm saying this is indicative of the problems that I'm seeing with Hollywood in general, is that they really are taking out the individual aspects of proving yourself by going through the extra mile and writing those great stories or storyboarding them to be able to basically say, no, you can't do that. You can't have things like talent here. I mean, look at the last couple of movies that have come out over the years. I swear, some of those actors and actresses are capable of so much more than they show on screen. And nope, can't do it, because that would require more pay.
Yeah, and a lot of people tend to think, like, oh yeah, animation's a nice fun thing, but no, it is hard work. And then when you have companies doing crap like this, it makes everybody look bad. That's pretty much the main problem. I mean, I remember way back in the earlier days of the show, we even covered about how awful it is for Japanese animators and the kind of stuff that they are put under. And so if you had all the Japanese animators working in those conditions, but then you also had studios like Bones, B-Train, and what are some other animation studios off the top of my head? Like Bones, B-Train, Production IG, and if you had all of those major animation studios decide to do the same thing where they're going to basically fix wages and not poach any company's talent, and basically just make it so that way none of these animators can go to any of the other companies and say, and in hopes of a better job, that would be messed up.
The other thing too is that irritates me on this matter is I follow a lot of web cartoonists and things like that, and when I hear them say, the horror stories that they've gone through, like for example, Scott Kurtz, I think he still works with Image, but when he got the deal with Image for PvP to be featured that way, I mean, I've heard him tell the positive stories, but I've also heard him tell a ton of negative stories. With, how dare you come up with unique and original ideas and then try to advertise it without even talking to us? It's like, well, there's no point in talking to you because you don't want to encourage that. And so it always concerns me, it always worries me when I hear about people going above and beyond and then company executive basically saying, how dare you do that? How dare you? How dare you be an artist? That's what we do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people like Aaron Hansen, Doug Walker, James Rolfe do on a daily basis. They are always trying to go that extra mile. And I don't know, it's one of those things that makes me kind of happy that people like Doug don't get recognized by Hollywood. So I don't know if I can deal with the fact of having a very toned-down Doug Walker or a toned-down James Rolfe.
Yeah, or even not necessarily toned down, where you'd have people. Yeah, it's also kind of a case where you have it where the people don't necessarily understand, and then try to expect not necessarily a toned down one, but then basically try to expect a carbon copy for every single video, which is also next to impossible.
But that's the dream, isn't it? Is that, James would love to direct for somebody like Universal. So, James got one of his major dreams this past year when he had a Nintendo console feature a game that he was in, technically. So at that point, it's like, great, cool, I'm living the dream. But I'll bet at some point he wants to be able to direct for Universal or for DreamWorks. And half of them has to wonder, what happens when I actually go to that? And they tell me that I can't push the extra mile. I can't push the envelope and do a really great job that would be like an Oscar-worthy performance. Because heaven forbid you have talent.
Yeah, and it's even worse since you don't have the option of going to anybody else since all the other companies are doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. Keeping in mind that, lowly people like Steven Spielberg had to work their way up too. Nowadays, we hear about directors that get hired on through this project and this project because they knew people. But back in the day, I can remember when we heard from relatively unknown directors like Stanley Kubrick and Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. And granted, we don't have good memories of them now, but I would actually dare say we do with some of those directors. But they had to work their butts off to get noticed. They had to go to indie festival after indie festival to get noticed.
Yeah, they were part of the film school generation. That was like the generation, because in the prior to that time, the idea of going to college to study film was relatively unheard of. And so that's what made directors like Kubrick, like Lucas, like Spielberg, like Coppola so influential, because they were the first generation of these upstarts coming from these dedicated schools of filmmaking.
And now, how dare you have talent like Spielberg? How dare you try to be the next Spielberg?
Yeah, and that's even the kind of stuff that even people like Spielberg and Lucas have complained about how manufactured a lot of stuff have become, and that's why Spielberg had the whole prediction of the inflation of the box office ticket, of how it would cost you like $20 to see Iron Man, where it would only cost you like $7 to see Lincoln.
Yes, and that's. Here's the bottom line: is that this entire topic here is a discussion in and of itself. Because already I'm kind of sharing my opinions on the matter, which is, it's such an oxymoron to basically fault people for having talent when, we look up to people like Walt Disney who had that kind of talent. And we applaud them and we applaud their accomplishments, and now how dare you have that if you're a new filmmaker?
And it's also a case of not only it's like how dare you have downs, but how dare you demand to be paid a wage that actually allows you to live like a normal human being and not like someone having to live in the boonies in India.
How dare you actually try and get a wage for yourself? Don't you understand that you're doing this because you're so passionate about it? Yes, but we also understand that things like food actually have a required price. It's one of those things that makes me laugh because JonTron put it perfectly in one of his end of video audible things, which is like, we understand that certain things can be paid for with money, or can't be paid for with money, but there are certain things that can be, like food. Common sense, people.
Yep. And Alex, you've also been kind of quiet for this story, so do you have any thoughts to share in regards to...
He nodded off the previous hour. That's what happened.
Yeah, this royally sucks because you're right, animation, it's time consuming, it's hard, and it's not an easy life. You have to have a true passion for the craft. Being an animator is such a high turnover job, and certainly we've seen stories like this come from the Japanese industry lately, where we're hearing about animators' wages are so low and it's very hard to get started, and you kind of have to try and work your way up to being a higher rank animator just to make a better wage. And well, who would have thought we're seeing this here again? And here in America, slightly different cases and circumstances. It's really sad. I'm glad you brought up the fact there is kind of lacking of a union for animators here in America, because some years back, not too many, but a few years ago, they did establish one in Japan, the Japan Animation Creators Association, which is a union for Japanese animators. So I'm surprised we haven't done it yet, but I'm thinking lawsuits like this, I think it's going to spur these animators to go and form an American Animators Union. And it's just either, and I get it, it's kind of this balance of economics and commerce and art and all that. It's like, it's the question, do you pay the animators more? Will that raise the cost of the film? Will that raise costs to consumers?
I don't know if I necessarily agree on that. I don't know if a union is the solution for that. I would just like people to be acknowledged that they are better drawers than other people. That sucks for the other guy, but
yeah,
treat them as such.
That would be the ideal thing, but I feel like if that doesn't happen, it is going to result in a union thing. That's why the other industry guilds came about, to essentially protect these people from predatory studios who just want to make their quick buck and not really care what they have to say about anything. And that's what's going to happen here if things don't change. And I feel like it might happen either way, but we'll have to wait and see. And I don't know. I'm not an economist. I don't know if raising all the animators' wages will make consumers have to pay more. I don't know. All I can hope is that there is a solution out there. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, and animators do need that negotiating power. That's the key thing, and that's why this lawsuit is so important. That's why these animators are suing these companies, is because by fixing and suppressing wages, they're effectively robbing animators of that negotiating power. That's why we have things like the Writers Guild. That's why we have things like the Directors Guild, the Producers Guild, the Film Teamsters Union. That's for the union for all of the grips and all of the electricians and all the people who do all the on-set stuff. Even they have unions. And so I'm with Alex. A union would be really important. And as for the increasing production costs, those costs would have to be eaten by the studio producing the film. Yeah, granted it may, because the theaters wouldn't necessarily charge more for tickets. It would just mean, well, it would basically mean that we'd be seeing more recycled animated films in the U.S. film industry, much like what's going on in Japan, because of the fact that the cost of production has gotten higher because of that negotiation. But to me, that's a necessary evil that we would have to face if it means that these animators can actually have a say in how they're treated and how they're paid, and basically protecting the dignity of the art form and the dignity of the credit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm still kind of 50-50 on. I mean, in all honesty, I have my own kind of viewpoint, which is not necessarily the most popular one. I would just like, if you're a good animator, you get acknowledged for being a good animator. And one of the ways that you get acknowledged for it is you get a higher pay for it, which is common sense to me. That's how people get recognized for their talents. But I don't understand why we can't do this simple aspect. I don't know. It's one of those things where we're forming a union on the matter. I agree with you, Romney. You need negotiating power. You need to have something at the table. But I don't know if necessarily a union is the way to do that. Because, unfortunately, one of the things that we kind of have to deal with in current day society is unions have kind of a 50-50 look to them. And so at that point, I would love to be a voice actor, but I don't know if I would ever want to be a card-carrying member of SAG. That's the thing.
And yeah, there are pros and cons with any union. I remember back at Sully Comic-Con at the Power Rangers panel where Walter Jones, David Yost, and the actors who played Maya in Lost Galaxy mentioned that the reason they couldn't go to New Zealand to join in the whole 20th anniversary run of Power Rangers for Super Megaforce was specifically because they were part of the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
And there is a thing that they do where you leave the guild and then you can come back in. It basically just you have to just repay the entry fee for the guild to be reinstated. And that's actually a common practice a lot of actors do. It's just the way they put it, the cost of like leaving and then getting back into the union and then factoring that with the cost of traveling all the way to New Zealand, paying for lodging, just wasn't feasible to them. And that was actually the reason why Walter Jones, why Thuy Trang, and why Austin St. John left the series during the second season was because they were trying to negotiate with Saban to have it become a union show, but Saban wouldn't have it become a union show so that he could keep the pay low, and thus why they left.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. It's one of those things where I actually encourage people to continue to follow this as it goes along. I obviously will, and Romney and Alex obviously will. But I can already tell you just this one simple concept. This isn't getting resolved anytime soon.
Yeah, this will take some more time. These things do take a lot of time, especially when it becomes a lawsuit like it is now.
Yeah. So, but I hate to do this, Romney, but we are actually over time.
Yeah, and so on that note, we'll wrap things up with our one cool things for the week, which shouldn't take too long. So, going around, we'll start with Adam. What is your one cool thing for this week, if you have any?
Well, my one cool thing would be being a dad, but I guess you want something legitimately geeky for that.
No, that can work too. It doesn't have to be limited to like movies or video games. Just something you find cool.
I've really only been able to play one game, and that has been two games, because I actually forgot to mention this, and Alex actually mentioned it to me afterwards because I live streamed the thing. Is the new King's Quest, which I'm really loving, and I'm going through serious withdrawal pains right now because I want to go back in and finish it, just because I want to keep going with it. But at the same time, I'm like, I could live stream this and get genuine reactions, and that'd be awesome. So I will actually call that out as a special shout out to the Odd Gentleman for doing such a great job on the King's Quest reboot. That's a great concept here. And if you don't mind, Rodney, I'm actually going to steal the spotlight a little bit because there's one other fan story that people wanted us to cover, and I think we can at least give a quick opinion on it and maybe go into a little bit more depth next week because I would love Aldo to be a part of this discussion. And that is, so some people have brought to my attention that apparently Marvel has, with their Secret Wars tie-in issues, they have actually included one called Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. And I guess the premise of it is to, at least if people have followed us as long as you have, undo a horrible mistake in Spider-Man continuity, at least as far as I'm concerned, which is One More Day. And so people are actually wondering what our opinions of it are. My opinion is this barely got brought to my attention. Because obviously people who would bring this to my attention are Romney and Aldo. And I would take care of a baby. I haven't really been able to maintain contact with people. So this is one of those things I would actually like to bring to another week's show just to talk about and whether or not this is actually them trying to fix One More Day or trying to put up the smoke screen and say One More Day didn't exist. Or forget about One More Day. It's not a thing. And so at that point, maybe this is something we'll bring up. Do you have a quick opinion on it, Romney, at all?
Not really. I'd have to look into it a little bit more. We may need to push it down to next week just so, since, again, this is the first time I'm actually hearing of it, so...
Yes. So maybe we'll do that for a following week, and then we can also get Aldo in on it and see what he thinks about it. Obviously, we know what Alex thinks about it is. It's a comic. He hasn't read it, so...
Pretty much
it. But yeah, gentlemen, good job with King's Quest. Maybe I will have to finish it on my own time.
All right, now, Alex, what is your one cool thing for this week?
Well, if you want to bring up the screen share on me for a moment, because I just discovered this on Twitter.
All right.
I'm afraid now.
Apparently, there's an unauthorized biographical film about Full House. It looks stupid as can be, but I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
Yeah, you don't actually have screen share active right now. You have to. It's the square with the arrow.
Okay, I gotta click on it.
And then show your screen and you actually have to click share, dude. So,
Oh, okay.
we're doing it live, people. We're doing it live.
Doing it live.
Yes, I had heard about this. They were going to do a biopic on Full House, and
Still
it's
seeing
just
nothing.
still as silly as it sounds. Let me see if I can bring it up here.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is, but it's just this goofy-looking picture on Twitter, and the cast looks really weird.
All right. Well, let's see
Give me
if
a second here and we'll bring it up.
yeah, Adam will have it up soon. Hopefully, let's switch it
Give me
over.
a second. All right, I got an image. So there you go. So we have, I'm guessing, a conceptual new cast for it.
Yeah, because this is
I don't know how else to put that.
it's obviously accurate portrayals of the real people, but it looks horrible, but I want to watch it anyway.
I don't want to watch it, and that's just because I don't want to have the music come in at the end of the episode.
Adam, there comes a time in everybody's life when you just gotta sit down and watch Full House and learn some things.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you over the Full House music coming over the feed here.
Okay.
Yeah, thankfully I managed to miss that part of the TGIF lineup.
Yeah. So yeah, that is the thing that is happening. I think it's really just they want to capitalize on the fact that Full House is celebrating some anniversaries and whatnot.
And it's coming back. Of course they are.
Yeah.
Capitalizing.
Is it coming back? Have they got a network who signed on it?
Yeah, it's a Netflix series actually.
Oh, that's right. We covered that. Or no, did we?
Yeah, we covered that.
So it's just like, oh man, I'm gonna have to deal with the music because I already know my wife is gonna want to watch it.
Yeah, and I just remember that they announced it, and there was a huge firestorm because of the fact that the Olsen twins weren't asked back, because that was apparently a huge thing. But
Would you
yeah.
dare ask them that? Because there's still some degree of controversy surrounding them right now.
Yeah, there are.
I mean, I know one of the twins is not recovered from the whole Heath Ledger thing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's the Prozac budget going up. All right. Well, my one cool thing for this week is Google Cardboard. I recently bought this. For those of you who don't know, Google Cardboard is let me set it to full screen so it won't switch at the slightest noise. Now, Google Cardboard is a virtual reality viewer that you can make out of cardboard. You just need the cardboard and the lenses. I bought the 2.0 version from unofficialcardboard.com. And what it is that it's a virtual reality viewer that uses your smartphone. So you open it like this, place your smartphone inside, closing it up, and close it up, and you're able to see virtual reality images and use virtual reality apps, and it's actually a pretty cool app. Problem is that I'm not able to use it to its fullest extent because my phone does not have a gyroscope. And that without a gyroscope, you can't really do any head tracking, you can't do any of the fancy tilting, and most importantly, you can't return to the home screen by simply tilting the phone because, well, my phone does not have a gyroscope. It only has a compass and an accelerometer. So
this would basically be like ideal for an iPhone user.
Yeah, like an iPhone user, or basically, so if you're wanting to experience some of the virtual reality stuff, but don't want to plunk down the hundreds of dollars for Samsung's headset and are tired of waiting for the Oculus Rift, I mean, this holder only cost me $20, and I paid an extra $5 to get a fancy little head strap. So it's actually pretty interesting because in what I've been able to see using Google Cardboard, it looks pretty cool. And so that's my one cool thing for the week is Google Cardboard and the 2.0 Plus available from unofficialcardboard.com. It's put together really well. It comes to you already assembled. Like, you don't have to buy the lenses. It basically has the lenses put in. You just have to put up the flap, put in your phone, and then enter the world of virtual reality.
So this is going to be seen as something mean, but I'm going to bring it up because when I see stuff like this, unfortunately, what the F is wrong with you has ruined my aspect of it. So you might want to put this back on me, Romney, because I've got to share this. The first thing that comes to my mind when I see stuff like this is, well, this image right here, where people have actually come up with like Oculus or hybrids for their iPad. And I'm really worried that we eventually will become an age of people where, oh man, holy crap, we're going to have to worry about people actually walking into telephone poles because their iPad is in front of their face.
Well,
so I think that's a good idea. I think that's a great idea. Let's be controlling about it a little bit.
Well, the way I look at it, that's just basically, if they walk into traffic or walk into a telephone pole, that's just Darwinism in effect.
It really is. But I love the fact that like the iPad's like, you can do a cheap rating of an Oculus Rift and never have to pay for Oculus Rift. All you have to do is have your iPhone right in front of your face.
Yeah, and, well, that's pretty much what this thing does, is that you use your smartphone, you can do cool virtual reality stuff, and if you have the gyroscope in your phone, you can actually do all that fancy head tracking stuff. Meaning that if you wanted, I mean, there's even apps that allow you to use it in conjunction with your computer. So if you wanted to do an Oculus Rift version of Amnesia using Google Cardboard, you have that option.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
with that brings us to the end of another show for the week, and we are over time by a good 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But we covered a lot of ground. Unfortunately, Aldo was not able to join us, but hopefully we'll see him next week, which just depends on whether it's in the cards. So now it's time for the usual song and dance of explaining where people can find us. So I'm going to start with Aldo's info since, well, Aldo isn't here. He's not here to do it himself. I just have to find the full list. Where the heck?
I forgot to send us a carrier raccoon to be able to do this.
Yeah, and so you can find Aldo on Twitter at Aldo531. You can also visit his website at boardoffline.net. And you can also see him on other YouTube channels like Anime Overdub ES and Board Offline. Those are the places that you can find Aldo if you want to send a message telling him about how much he missed, or if you want to bring some video game stuff to his attention, or if you want to look at some of the reviews that he puts out, because he puts out some pretty good reviews.
Or maybe have him take the Konami survey and see how well he does with it.
Yep. All right, now to you, Alex. Where can people find you if they want to, I don't know, complain about the fact that you say silent, or if they just have some sort of umbrage with you for some reason?
The fact that he stayed quiet the entire time and then just said he checked out for an hour. Because Geek stuff is serious business, Alex! It's serious business!
Well, you didn't really segue into me, so that's why. So it's your own It's your own guys' fault. You can find me on Twitter. Alex J. Short is my handle. You can find me on YouTube. Of course, my name is ShadowBlazer3000. And, well, there's probably a dozen other places you can find me, but you can also find me on Facebook, Alex Short. Again, just say hello. Tell me who you are. Complain to me if you must, but don't troll me. I'll troll you back.
I like that explanation.
All right. And, I mean, he's got a point. We did kind of talk over him a lot, so...
Well, okay, in our defense, and also to some extent in Alex's defense, he kind of tends to do that. So, if he has an opinion, he'll voice it. That's the bottom line of it. But when he doesn't really have an opinion, that's when you get those moments of he is playing Omega Ruby or Alpha Sapphire on his desk.
Yeah. Well, now that since you've spoken up, Adam, where can people find you if they want to continue giving you the Scarlett Johansson treatment?
They want to give the Scarlett Johansson treatment? I don't really have the boobs for Scarlett Johansson. I'm not really Black Widow. I'm sorry. So you guys can find me at two places. You can find me on my YouTube channel, which is Drac2326. I would highly recommend it because that is where Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions is hosted, and the main playlist is. So aside from the two hostings where Romney has done that, and first of all, special thanks to Stephen Romney for being willing to step up and being willing to take the abuse and have to deal with the horrible concept that is YouTube with Google Hangouts on air. So special thanks to him. Yeah, I promise that he did not win the show in a poker game because I would totally be sending every responsibility to him if I could. But this is my baby, and I appreciate that. So I would strongly encourage you guys to go into my channel, especially since we just barely started a brand spanking new Let's Play both me and my wife, we found time in between changing diapers to be able to start up a current gen console game. So we're doing the Let's Play of Knack for the PS4. So you guys can look forward to that, or you can look into the various of the Let's Plays and projects that I have going. Probably not right now. People have noticed that I have not done live streaming for a couple of weeks, and that's just because maybe. So it's coming back, I promise. And then also, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it's under the exact same handle, Drac2326. You guys can call me whatever you want, and whether or not I respond to you is completely up to me. That's just the bottom line of it. If you guys don't like the fact that I didn't like the Konami survey, or the fact that it's trolling me, or the fact that this and this and this, then, well, that's up to you.
All right.
Shall I do Geek News, or shall we wait on you?
Go ahead, close.
No, I would actually say, Romney, do yours, and then I can do Geek News.
Well, your signal kind of cut out for a second, so I didn't quite hear what you said, but...
No.
Well, once again, and again, since I'm hosting, I'm not going to do the usual stopwatch thing because I'm having to mind 30 bajillion things at once, so you can always find me on youtube.com/StudioPhantasma. That's Phantasma with an F. I cannot change the name because YouTube will not let me, even though I changed the official name of the channel because the name Studio Phantasma was already taken by a graphic design firm in Germany. So yeah, that's where you can find me. That's where I post my show, Romney's Reviews. That's where I basically do reviews of movies. I have done some game reviews on occasions, and I do have a review on deck that I am still trying to put together. So yeah, that's the main place where you can find me. However, you can also follow me on social media by going to the Romney's Reviews Facebook page at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews, no apostrophe, and liking it and seeing when I put new videos out, occasional quips, occasional reactions to certain stories if I'm asked. And you can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at Romney Reviews, no apostrophe S, because, again, Twitter wouldn't let me. So if you want to follow me, see me doing very depressing haiku poetries that come up to my mind while riding the train to and from work, you can find those there. And you can also find me on MoviePilot, although probably for not much longer, at moviepilot.com/ROMNE. So those are where you can find me. And as Adam has mentioned, Geek News Reviews and Opinions is normally hosted on youtube.com/Drac2326. And these two episodes that I've been hosting are currently hosted on my channel, so yeah, it's temporary. And as for the remaining Geek News stuff, yeah, we've got the playlist. That's what it's for. And since I'm not the one who handles the email or the Twitter accounts, I'm going to hand it over to Adam to do that thing.
If you guys want to contact the show directly and leave us stories, whether it be to comment on the fact that apparently we just don't get current concepts like Konami trying to get into the Chinko biz, or the fact that we don't understand why we can't be excited, or the fact that Nintendo's making a new console and it's going to be Wii U 2.0 and we're going to be totally happy about that, we always welcome you guys' comments in one of three places. You can go to geekyweek@gmail.com and leave us stories that you would like us to cover, maybe bring to our attention. Also, leave your opinions on the stories and whether or not you think they're full of crap, because that occasionally happens. You can also go to Twitter and go look, send a like over to GeekyNRO, and you will get up-to-the-minute information on when we're going to be going live. I know the last couple of weeks that hasn't been happening, but that's because I run it. So with a baby, that's kind of a hard thing. But we're making it work. But that is another place where you guys can contact us and say we're full of crap, or you can say you completely agree on the whole concept of us being totally for cosplay variants. The other place you can go to is our Facebook page, which is going to Facebook and looking up Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, and liking it. And you will get up-to-the-minute information on when we're going live, whether it be for Gaming with Geeks or whatever we decide to do with it. But in the meantime, I think that's going to go ahead and do it for tonight. So I'm sending it back to Romney, and he can go ahead and finish this thing.
All right, so yeah, that is our show for this week. My camera is deciding to glitch out now, so...
I was going to say, were you trying to filter it or something?
No, it is literally acting weird, so while I'm in the starry field, for me, for Aldo, who couldn't join us, for Adam, and for Alex, we bid you good night.
Dance party at Romney's place.